Hi, this is Declan Shalvey, writer, artist of Moon Knight and Time Before Time, and you're listening to 11 O'Clock Comics.
May the 4th be with you, everybody. I am David A. Price.
Indeed you are. And of course, I am the Hodag.
Wow. Wonder what that could mean.
Yes, Vince B is not with us, which all kidding aside is a rare thing, I think, in the 15 years. By the way, this is our fifth, this is the month of, this is May, Dap. This is when it all started. But in all the years we've been doing this, I think Vince has missed exactly one show per year when his family makes him take a vacation that he doesn't have access to the interwebs, and it drives him nuts. And and this is the week. Vince has been on a crime cruise, which we can't wait to hear about.
Lost at
maybe
sea.
Maybe you'll get bonus content as he reviews the crime cruise for you. But listen, Dap and I are charming mofugs for sure. But we didn't want to burden you with just listening to the two of us. So we had to call in the big guns to join in. This time not in the 4th seat, as he often is, but in the 3rd seat. It's everybody's favorite comic creator, Mr. Tony Fleecs.
Hey, gang. My seat, it smells like Vince B. My chair.
It's like a weird mix of like patchouli and blood.
Oh, good Lord. Well, obviously, this is 11 O'Clock Comics, episode 851.
Woo.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, for listening. Tuning in, because, you got the dial and we're on a radio. I am going to completely butcher any sort of sponsor spot, so I am just going to implore everyone to check out our sponsor and a very close personal friend of our guests over cheapgraphicnovels.com. Anything we discuss tonight, you should be able to, if it's not collected, if it will be collected shortly, you should be able to, as long as it's been solicited, you can head over to Max's site and add it to your wish list. Put it in your, maybe even do a pre-order if possible. But there's a whole deal going on over there. You've got whatever you purchase your first time around. You'll follow up with a reply in your email, and listen to last week's episode the way Vince explained it, and you'll get free shipping on your second order. But I am just really, I need this tonight. The day was it's been a hell of a week at work. It's kind of continuing from when I think you were last on, Tony, but it's still more of that nonsense. So I was really looking forward to tonight. And like as Jason said on the bonus content before we started here, when we were talking about what we were going to do tonight, and then we found out that Tony was joining us, I was so happy because it'll make for a fun time. We got some pretty cool topics lined up. Jason opened up the floor to the slackers, so we might even have some of their input. And yeah, I want to know first though, what is everyone drinking? Even though I'm probably the only one who is.
Yeah. Well, that is. I'm drinking, just not alcohol. Yeah, I have 3 beverages here. I have some water, which is the least interesting, I'm sure. I have Schweppes pink grapefruit seltzer, which is probably the second most interesting. And by far the most interesting is a delicious, yet to be sipped, but I'm about to hear momentarily, of some iced cafefe, with some dark brew, some deeply strong brew with some oat milk, extra creamy barista style oat milk, and a bit of stevia.
What are you still on Stoke? What are you doing?
I use the Stoke. That's right.
I keep up. I'm not.
Yeah. I was using the Starbucks, and then I think almost by accident there was none around about 6-8 months ago, and Stoke was there, and I'm like, I'm gonna grab this, and I like it better. So yeah, I'm a Stoke guy.
So they make
you a Stoke guy?
Depending on what's in the grocery store, I always just pick whichever one has the least calories because I'm always it's like 8 calories versus 5 calories, but in my
I was going to say it doesn't have it's coffee. It doesn't have calories. I mean,
it does. It's got a little.
If you get the sweet, I don't get the sweet kind. I get the unsweetened.
The sweet kind. It's always got like 5 or 8.
Dude, okay. Well, listen, I'm a nut, but that's beyond nutty. Like 5 or 8 calories.
It's like
okay.
It's a and then I'll go off and I'll just eat like a Baconator or something. I don't want to waste calories. So I'll get Stoke sometimes. I can't remember what the kind is that I have right now, but it's just whichever one was they had in the store at the time.
I have not tried it yet.
Stoke. I saw when I was in the store this week, I saw that La Colombe. Well, so when I was there was a period when I was drinking La Colombes like it was going out of style. They're highly caloric, so when I went on to the fitness maneuvers a couple years back, I gave them up. But I love La Colombe very much, and I saw this week in the store that there are now full-sized prepackaged bottles of La Colombe, including unsweetened. So I'm going to probably try that the next time because I always love the little cans of La Colombe.
I just went and checked. That's what I'm on right now. The unsweetened La Colombe. Lower
there you go. That La Colombe is the jam, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, Stoke makes
that's Philly style. They're Philly style.
Oh, well, I'm representing for you.
There you go.
I see Stokes makes the pods.
Sorry.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm drinking a sugar-free Rockstar. It's the one in the white and gold can. That has 25 calories, which seems like way too much. But what are you gonna do? I gotta keep this train moving.
Just I just noticed Stokes got the pods, so maybe I'll
nice.
Check that
out.
That. Add it to your coffee. I am going to finish off this High West Double Rye, which is a blend of straight rye whiskeys from Utah. Once that's done, I'm going to go to town on this big ass tall bottle of water I got next to me.
I love it. A polygamy. It makes sense that it would be from Utah if it's multiple ryes all blended together.
It's true. Very, very true.
Nice.
So yeah. So
sense that it'd be from Utah because they have hardly any liquor there.
That's true too.
That is, yeah. It is really
true.
nice. I mean, I'll usually Whiskey River around the corner. They'll sometimes, depending on. They'll usually, if you ask for the house rye or the house whiskey, they'll bourbon. They'll usually, it's often High West. Sometimes Buffalo Trace, sometimes Rendezvous, but more often than not, High West. So and our buddy Carlo, one of our very first Slacker patrons, gifted me a bottle of High West a few years ago, but it's good stuff. So I think we got the heavy stuff out of the way.
Indeed.
So obviously, yes, when we're recording this, no one's going to hear this on May 4th. My plan is everybody should be able to hear it sometime tomorrow, but we were kind of thinking we could lean into some sci-fi because it is, of course, officially or unofficially Star Wars Day. We also have we've got which of course Mandalorian recently wrapped up its third season. Picard wrapped up its third and final season, so we can even go down some Star Trek because this week, or the past couple of issues of IDW's various Star Trek titles have been pretty on and pop, and I know Tony loves to talk about the Star Wars. So I mean, we can start there, or we can talk about what we've been reading. I leave it up to the guest.
I figure we'll pepper. We have some awesome questions from the patrons, and if people want to know how they could ask questions that we would discuss, you can join the Patreon. Go to patreon.com/11o'clockcomics. There are tiers there, and not tears like crying out of sorrow, but tears like as in layers. And many of the tiers will provide you access to our Slack channel, which is on and popping. Listen, Twitter's a shit show. Reddit's for old heads. Nobody uses Facebook anymore. Kids think it's corny. The Gram is cool, but only if you're making video content, apparently. So if you're looking for a place to have active, engaged comics and culture conversation that's highly moderated and just good people being real with each other, the Slack is where it's at. So come aboard. We'd love to have you. It's by far the best online community I've ever been a part of. So there you go. But yeah, we got some dope questions. And because I love Mabu and he's producing tonight, even though it is May the 4th, and even though we all on the show right now are Star Wars fans, I thought it'd be fun to make it sci-fi and leave the door open for your Star Trek and other things. Because I know that, in fact, I don't remember what episode. I meant to look it up. But we had a Star Trek-centric episode some time ago where we did some top 5 lists. Maybe it was one of the other May 4ths. But I do know that even though Dap rides hard for the Star Wars, if he had to cut Star Wars' throat to save Star Trek, he would in a heartbeat. So, so I'm trying to leave it open. I'm a Star Wars guy. There's no secret there. Daps likes both, but he's a Star Trek guy. Tone, where do you fall in on this?
Star Wars, I have no real issue with Star Trek. It's just too much of it. I mean, Star Wars is getting there too, but like Star Wars more exciting to me, and so I can dip in and take it all in. Star Trek more of a cerebral, thoughtful.
Yeah, I can get that. Yeah, I think
all type stuff.
I think it. I mean, like with anything else, I do think it all depends on the entry point. What introduced you? How old were you? What else was going on in your world? And I mean, for me, Star Trek. My father watched it when it was originally airing. So when it was on syndication, when it was on reruns, he and I would watch it together. And I didn't see the motion picture in the theater. And I think the first one I may have seen was 3, definitely 4, because I remember seeing it with my aunt Gail and her friend at the time. And so there was what I tend to think is that because Star Wars can be at times you've got that hope, but you have the hope because it can be a little bleak with the Empire, the Imperial forces, and grinding down the rebellion and anybody who's opposing the Empire. Whereas Star Trek is there's a lot more optimism there. It's a hopeful future. It's the kind, and I understand that Star Wars is a long time ago in a galaxy far away, but with the things with Trek, I think it just makes its fans kind of, just like I said, optimistic. Just and plus, I mean, the things that a simple TV show gave us as far as technology, which we've talked about in the past with the StarTAC and the goddamn sliding open doors and just things like that. And it's I think as far as nerds and scientists and grown ass professionals who like to dabble in technology or science, I think some of them, if not most, probably can credit Star Trek for kind of pointing them down that path. And not to say that Star Wars obviously isn't sci-fi / fantasy. You have the lasers, you have the computers, you have the robots and the androids, but you also have things that look like old boom boxes and reel-to-reel recorders. And I love the fact that Star Wars has like this mix of old and new tech. You've got dirty looking robots, but they're still freaking robots. It's a crazy dichotomy. I love the look of Star Wars, and I especially love it now with our shows on Disney Plus, like Andor, like The Mandalorian. I like that we're getting, because before, with Star Trek we had the TV shows and then eventually the movies, whereas Star Wars was the other way around.
Right.
And the shows are fleshing out that galaxy, that universe, those worlds so much more. And I'm so thankful for it. I'm not at the point yet where I'm like, it's too much. I'm just glad it's all there, and when I can get to it, I can get to it.
Well, all right, so what you just said is exactly an answer to one of the questions. So let's just jump right into that. We'll have Tony and I chime in. Bill Dowdy says, all of the Star Wars and Star Trek content being made in the past few years, too much of a good thing or keep it coming? So you just said pretty much that you're good with it. I will say that I think I understand why some may feel like it's too much, but where I struggle is that like no one is forcing anyone to watch it, right? So like I have found all of the deluge of content in the last bunch of years, especially on Disney Plus, all the Marvel shows, all the Star Wars shows. I absolutely would say that I haven't enjoyed each of them to the same degree. Some I've absolutely adored with fiery passion, and others I just thought were okay. But like, there hasn't been one that I've thought like, why did I watch that? Or like, I can't believe they bothered making that. And even if I did, like, then I could just not watch the next one or take a break. Like, there's nothing, there's this like strange idea that like we have to watch them because they're being put out, and that's not true at all. So I kind of like I totally disavow the idea of they're doing too much of it, because we have agency. I can just opt to take a break. I don't need to, so yeah, I think it's fine. Like, as long as the quality remains high, and what I mean by that is like, as long as it doesn't mean that I'm going to personally love every show, but as long as the production values and that it's a continuing universe, and they play fair with all that, like I'm here for it, I just don't even really understand the idea of it being too much. Now, and like, that's different than like do I think it's too much from if I were in charge of Disney or Time Warner or whatever, like, or Paramount. Yeah, I think we've got too much. I think because we're seeing diminishing returns economically speaking, but I'm not an executive at those places. They haven't called me and asked me to hire me away. So until they make me a head of the studio and replace Filoni and Favreau, like, no, then have at it. Like, as a fan, no, it's fine. But as the finance guy in the room, yeah, it's I think absolutely a case to be made. There's too much of it, because the stuff is being watched by fewer people, and with each subsequent release is having lower viewership regardless of quality. So that tells you that, like, outside of the hardcore nerds like us, like, the average Joe seems to be getting tired of the stuff, at least on the margin.
I think there's something to be said with that. Like, the idea of familiarity breeds contempt, or like scarcity drives up demand, that sort of thing. Like, I think a studio like Disney with Star Wars and Marvel might be better served going like, this is what you get. And this is like, here's your Marvel for the year. Like, if Marvel put out one Marvel movie a year and put all the same amount of man hours into it, that they put into, I would rather they made one great one a year than like 3 medium ones a year,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that.
Star Wars series. Like, if they had just only put out Andor this year and then spent another, 5 months or whatever cooking up Mandalorian, I feel like it would have come out better. I don't know if we talked about last time, but I think Mandalorian 3 was cool, but it's not like it's day and night compared to Mandalorian 1. Like you watch that first season and it's like they have solo episodes, but it's like connected and everything seems important and you know, at this point they're just like they were just going on little fun adventures for no good reason some of the time, you know.
Yeah,
just like,
yeah.
Over here. So,
Yeah, I don't disagree with what you're saying there. Like on a personal level, I haven't enjoyed each thing, and as Dap knows, because I kvetch about it a lot. Like I have been like pretty strongly disappointed with the Marvel DC, not DC, the Disney Marvel TV shows last few years. Like just none of them have felt really particularly special to me. Again, like, and I think, like you said, Tony, even for us, like it is part of that. It's just like I'm unfortunately getting numb to it. Like if I take a step back and think that 15 years ago, if you told me, okay, you're going to have new, like real life, amazing looking superhero stories from the characters you've been in love with your whole life to watch to the point of exhaustion, I'd be like, sign me up. Like this is a dream. Don't tease me. So it is just conditioning. Like, I do think absence does make the heart grow fonder. In fact, with us talking about how we're going to go see Guardians of the Galaxy 3 this weekend, I think, again, the business hat of me, like, this is a super, super important film for Marvel, especially with Bob Iger coming back. I fundamentally believe that if this is not a massive global hit, and I suspect it will be, by the way, but if it is not, I think that will be the nail in the coffin, not for the MCU, obviously, but for Iger saying, okay, we need to pull back. To your point, Tony, like we need to make these feel special again, because right now it's not worth it. Like we're not going to make $300 million movies and not turn a profit, right? Like that doesn't make sense. So I do think that if for some reason Guardians isn't a global smash, that we'll see a pretty big retrenchment in the overall volume, and ultimately maybe that'll be great for the perceived quality of them. But there's a lot of ifs and whens in this conversation. But I do think that this movie in particular is like this is the key litmus test for Marvel, I think.
I got pretty high hopes for it. Like I'm pretty excited about it. I hear people talking shit about Guardians Volume 2, and I'm just like, you hold that thing up to any of these other movies that came out recently, it's a masterpiece. Like it's just like the slow, like, and I like all these superhero movies. Like I'll go see them, But like there was a time when they were great, like that first Guardians and like the event, like all the Avengers. I hear people talk about Age of Ultron. It's the same thing. Like you put Age of Ultron up against, what's the Kirby one that the Angelina Jolie?
The Eternals.
Yeah, the Eternals. It's just like Age of Ultron looks like, Blade 2.
No, you know what? You're right. It's funny, specific on that. I was pretty negative on Age of Ultron when it came out. Like I remember leaving the theater being like, oh no, like there was a Marvel movie I didn't adore. But what's interesting is I inevitably over the years rewatching them, I'm with you. I think I was too hard on it at the time, and maybe it's because I've seen how things can be worse. But I'm like, oh, it was pretty good. Like I was pretty tough on it actually. I think it's pretty good. So I do think that one improved with age for me.
Yeah. About like all the Avengers. I was just thinking about it earlier this week. I was just like, man, every one of those Avengers movies I could watch. Like just sit me down and be like, I'm putting on any of the Avengers, and I'll just be like, oh, right on.
Yeah, that's facts. That's facts. But don't you think that's part of what's going on now, though, right? Because again, like the here we are talking about it, but like the average person did something that no one ever thought possible. They stuck around for 20 plus films, all where you had to pretty much watch them all to get the full story. People gladly did it. But like again, it does feel like that story's been over, right? And I mean, we know that there's a plan. We know that the Fantastic Four is coming. We know that the X-Men are coming. We know that there's going to be a new team of Avengers, which we've been getting built very slowly through the film, through the TV shows. We know all that, but the average person doesn't know that. Like they're not connecting those dots. So to them, it's like, oh, that was a super awesome 14-year run. It's over now, and Marvel's just making movies now. They're not connected anymore. They're not tied in. There's no big grand plan. And while we as nerds know that's not true, I can understand why the average person's just like, nah, well, it was awesome, but the Avengers Endgame kind of finished it off, and I'm good with that. And what a journey it was. So
yeah, agreed. But yeah, I was super looking forward to this. I mean, I don't think there's a James Gunn movie I don't like. Like I like all his shit, so I'm there. You're not on board with all of it?
No. Are you affected at all by this WGA strike? Are you doing, like, I forget, are you involved in anything that's now on the kibosh?
No, I don't have any.
You're not doing any TV right now?
Going TV or movie stuff right now. I was writing on the Michael Tony show, but that's Animation Guild, not WGA. But I'm not currently working on it. I'm not actually.
So there's no solidarity, like, so they're going to still make cartoons?
Of course, there's solidarity, but they wouldn't go on strike until they were up to negotiate. Like,
oh, okay.
It makes sense for them to strike without having demands.
Because I know that I did exchange some messages with Tom King this week, and he is understandably pretty bummed because it's no secret he's part of the core writing team for the aforementioned James Gunn's rebuilding of the next phase of the DCU. Tom is part of that writing cohort of like 5 or 6 people, so big time. But he's super bummed, as you might imagine, because literally just things are shut closed, and they're kind of in the middle of all of it. They're there's nothing close to being finished yet. So and I realize he's just one person's opinion, but I said, hey, I get my personal opinion on this is that the strike's been going on for a long time. And he just agreed. He said, yeah, he's like, I'm mentally prepared for 6 months or longer. So, Yeah,
it's gonna be weird for sure. But yeah, I'm not super affected beyond more of my friends have time to hang out when they're not marked up.
Yeah, it's true. LA, it's probably more dinner dates and whatnot.
Yeah. I've got my movie guests, my movie companions have opened up now. They're not slammed like that. Yeah.
All right, Dap. Leia, Padme, Rey. FMK.
Get out of
Anthony G asked it. Anthony's always been a great friend and supporter. We got to answer it.
Padme is K.
Okay.
Man, I feel like I know Leia would be freaky, but I feel like that's the one you got to marry. Yeah.
So F Ray.
Yeah.
I'm on the other side of this. I'm marrying Padme for sure.
Okay.
Because she's got mad loot. Like, you're just set for life. I mean, you can do anything you want in the galaxy with her at your side.
Does she? In this,
what?
Are we presupposing that she survives?
Oh yeah, of course. This is there's no right. Yeah, of course. This is an alternate universe. Yeah.
At this point.
So I'm marrying Padme. I mean, it'll be a loveless marriage, but I'll find
sure
other things to keep me busy. I'm taking a roll in the head with Rey because she's in her prime and vivacious and cute, and I'm killing Leia. I think she's too much. It's too much there. It's too much. It's a lot to handle. It's a lot to handle. She's intense. So
I'm respectfully not participating in this, but I know my answer.
Oh wait! What?
Wow!
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. You know me.
Oh my lord. Okay, Vince. All right.
Okay. The opposite of Vince right now. Vince would have been hardcore. He would have been drawing diagrams.
No, he hates this game. That's why we're doing it tonight. That's why Anthony asked the question, because he for some reason, I mean, Vince will give you 20 minutes of graphically horrifying detail about the most assaulting hentai ever, but for some reason he doesn't like FMK. Anywho,
I really am sitting.
Yeah, there you go. So you said you went to 4 movies this week.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, this will be 5 tonight. And I think before the show started, I said I'm on crazy deadlines. I'm drawing as we're talking. I'm working on Local Man 5.
I'm sure it's going to look great. If anyone says like, yes, this book looks a little rushed this time.
Why does everybody look like Jason Wood in the background?
Maybe it looks good, and just the podcasting isn't as good. One way or the other. Yeah, there was a triple feature at the New Beverly on Tuesday. The Patty Chayefsky movie, The Hospital, and this Western called Ulzano's Raid, and then this 1979 movie called Steel with Lee Majors that was about building skyscrapers, which was terrifying. Like, I went to it because I wanted to see The Hospital on screen. Like, I figured there probably wouldn't be another chance for that. And then Steel, you can't even see on, like, DVD or anything. So I was like, well, I got to go see that. Because, like, one of the most affecting movies I saw last year was this movie Fall. There's like a horror movie where these two girls climb up a cell phone tower and get stuck up there.
Okay, I saw the poster for that.
Yeah, Jeffrey Dean Morgan is in it as like the one famous guy. But as I get older, I'm more and more scared of heights, and so like Fall was maybe the scariest horror movie I'd seen since like The Exorcist. Like it's not even a great movie. It's just like they did the high wire effects, or like the super high up in the air effects great, and it just made it like I was curled up in a ball, like watching through my hands. And I was like, well, let me go see like the real life version of that from the 70s, and it was a much goofier movie, but just as terrifying. I really get scared watching heights. Like even in like a superhero movie, like I remember that like outside the building fight in Shang-Chi, I was terrified. Like I'm like, I know they shot this on like a volume or something, but I don't know. I really get invested in these movies, and I get scared of heights, knowing that I'm sitting at a chair in a movie. But I saw those, Ulzano's Raid, Steel, and The Hospital, which The Hospital fucking ruled on the big screen. And then last night we went and saw Sisu, which is that one about he's like a Finnish guy that just goes apeshit and kills Nazis.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, that shit was incredible. A real treat. We were talking afterwards, it was me and Movie Club, and we were talking about how Nazis are really the best for killing. You know, like, it just feels great. You have a bloodlust as a person, right? And so, like, that's why you go and watch horror movies or, like, revenge movies or whatever.
Yep.
You want to see some people get fucked up. But there is a guilt that comes with, you know, when it's, like, innocent people, you're just like, oh, it feels bad, you know, a little bit, at least for me. But Nazis, whew, they can get dismembered and just ripped apart and blown up, and you're just happy and smiling. They really were monsters. You know, that like, you know, 100 years later, we're still just like, man, I would love to just watch them get dismembered some more. Fuck those fucking guys. So that, Sisu, a real great watch, recommended. And then tonight I'm going to Guardians.
Nice.
Yeah.
Should we talk some comics?
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Let's speak on it.
Well, you want me to go first?
You're our guest.
I just read Ambassadors 2 and 3 before we got started. It's crazy.
Nice.
Every time I come on here, we're talking Mark Millar anymore.
Yeah, dude, he has been on a heater though. He puts out so many books.
Yeah.
Like I haven't even read. I'm not reading the new volume of Nemesis.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm not reading Monarch yet. And I feel like I'm reading Millar every week.
Yeah, I have not read Nightclub, and I haven't been keeping up on Magic Order.
Yeah, I mean, Magic Order is finishing up volume 4, dude.
Yeah. But this Ambassadors was too good a proposition for me to pass up. I just love the idea of, like, somebody getting a bunch of different artists to draw, you know, different issues and having a good reason for it, you know, like every issue.
And not just any artist. I mean, banger artists, many of which I just don't ever do interiors anymore. And aptly, you're bringing this up in the week after we get issue number 3, which is probably the issue. Again, no disrespect to the other 5 artists that are involved. We talked about them a few weeks ago. They're all great. But, like, I think a lot of us probably were most eager for issue 3 because it's Travis Charest, and I can't tell you the last time Travis Charest drew a comic that I read. Like,
23 years ago, they said.
How much?
Jesus Christ.
23 years since he's done a full issue.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Wow. Holy shit.
So this is the first episode where we can talk about our brand new full interior Travis book.
What do we think?
Well, it's a bummer. I mean, what did you think? The Frank Quitely was the first issue, and that shit was grade A Quitely.
Yeah, that was magical.
Like, oh, for sure. Yeah.
Killing it, doing great. And then the second issue, Carl Kerschel did the issue that was about India, the Indian superhero.
Mm-hmm.
And that was sort of had fun teenage superhero, like, Invincible Spider-Man vibes. I was sure that Jason would have enjoyed it because it not only is it a putting a team together book, but it also had whales.
It did,
yeah.
I read 2 comics in the last week that had whales in it. Well, I guess 2 weeks because but yeah, I'm a very happy camper, and it really made me think about my high artist because I'm like, God, if I wasn't a high artist, I'd be trying to buy these pages. But go ahead.
High artists.
I think Kerschel's digital though, so I'd be safe on that one. I think.
Then issue 3, the Travis Charest one, is about Paris and France. This mother-son team.
Yeah, Baguette and Peregrine. Yeah.
And man, first of all, I mean, Travis Charest is a great artist, better than I will ever be, and he hasn't drawn a comic in 23 years. And listen, Dave Stewart obviously has put in the work, but why on earth? Like, were they just thinking like, well, he's such a detailed artist, you don't want to render anything, you want to just have it be. If that's the case, just print the line art. These colors were a bummer for me. It felt like, just like if you get one Travis Charest comic every 23 years, maybe put out all the stops.
It should be flawless.
Yeah, and so like I just felt like that was sort of like malpractice. Just
malpractice. Wow.
I feel
wow, that's strong.
Like,
he won't FMK, but he'll say fuck it.
Yeah, you won't say if he'll bang a fictional Star Wars character, but yeah,
he'll throw malpractice around the comic.
The greatest colorist in comics history.
No,
guilty of malpractice.
Shit. Colorist in comics history. He has great palettes and he has a great sense, but just like sometimes I feel like it's just not a match, and to me, this is not a match. And maybe it's just because I'm used to seeing Travis, with Wildstorm colors,
mm-hmm.
and so I'm used to some rendering. But I just feel like that was sort of warranted. It just feels like Stewart was on autopilot and not attacking it with the ferocity of just like, this is the only Travis Charest comic for some people will die, and this will be the last Travis Charest comic they'll ever see, And so I feel like that, like there's a responsibility there, and I don't feel like.
Man, I'm so glad we had you on because this is the hottest takeout you've ever had on the show, and all the times you've been on.
Really?
This is hot. This is incendiary.
I mean, well, I think the colors on the Carl Kerschel one are better. And he like half colored it himself. He had a color assistant, Michelle SRS. Oh fuck, I fucked that all up. Man, I'm sorry, Michelle. But yeah, like the Carl Kerschel one is bright and poppy, and maybe it's because like that's supposed to be like a teenager type story and like a little lighter anyway. But right. This story is like a mom and son superhero team.
Yeah, it's like a Batman and Superman story, basically. Batman and Robin story, basically.
And even if it is supposed to look Parisian or like Euro comics or something, like they're not even doing that. Like bring somebody that's gonna like paint render or something. Like give me something. I don't know. Like I was so hyped, so excited because it's been 23 years. And looking at the Travis stuff, like you see sort of what digital has meant for his work, and I mean, it's not my favorite Travis of all time, but he's still a master, and like he still has his tricks and he's doing cool stuff. But it's just like I guess I couldn't have been. It would have been hard for something to come out of this and have me just be like, there it is, exactly what I hoped for.
I was going to say, this sounds like you, whether you intended to or not, had just unreachable expectations for this.
For sure, but I will not forgive the colors. I'll never forget this, Dave.
Wow, I love it. I guess Dave Johnson will be
wearing covers. Yeah, I was just going to say, so the Dave Stewart colors on Local Man.
No, I'll take my guys for sure. Don't worry about that.
Nice.
And he's the most awarded colorist of all time. Not the greatest, I don't think. He's just,
Listen, I'm not gonna say he's the greatest, like, definitively, because it's an argument I don't have the energy to make. But when they rename the award for you, you got a pretty good case. The Eisners don't reward best colorist; they reward the Dave Stewart Colorist Award. So, like, I mean, it is what it is. But I hear you.
Yeah, I feel like in some cases it's just like people don't pay attention to colors and they just go like, "Oh, Dave wins. I'll vote for Dave."
Sure. Well, that's why they're basically retired him. He's not really. It's
like, the people that are voting for like the Fantagraphics books, they don't know about like Marty Gracia or whatever, but they do know Stewart.
It's like offensive lines in football. Once you get good enough that people recognize you stay at or near the top spot until you retire. And again, no disrespect. I don't want this to come out. Like, Jordie's at that point now, right? Like, Jordie gets, like, she's going to be nominated every year that she's doing comics now, because she may not win every year, but she'll be nominated just because, like, she had a run where people are like, she's the new person, and now because colorists are so prolific, she's secured a spot at the top forever now. I mean, until she's done, I think. Just
I saw Phil Hester 2 weeks ago, and he said that she's his favorite that he's ever had. He's just like, I wish I could do everything always.
There you go. Well, Dap, what did you think of the issue?
Honestly, I am in a similar boat with Tony.
Whoa!
No, it's
we are about to be canceled. Like,
I
don't think Rich Johnson's going to be like, 11 O'Clock Comics loses their minds and shits on Travis Charest and Dave Johnson.
It's
no shit on Travis.
Okay.
There's but
Dave Stewart though.
Dave Stewart, yeah. Because
Dave Stewart, I'm sorry, not Dave Johnson. Yeah.
Even as when she shows her son in the garage and we're getting the back image of the vehicle, the colors are just not rocking my world. And I understand, most of this issue takes place at night, so it's going to be a little on the dark and gray side. But
let me interrupt for a second.
Sure.
Remember when we saw this 2-page spread before? Like, they tweeted this out, or like it was a preview that they put out in black and white, just as sort of like a Travis is coming back shot, and it was stunning. You're just like, holy shit, look at all those lines. There's this 2-page spread that, to be fair, I bet Mark Millar wanted it to be like the Jim Lee Batcave shot, and it's not that. He got a little too far up his own ass with this thing.
Yeah.
Because
the one with all the scaffolding where they're going down the elevator.
Yeah, it is a drawing of scaffolding mostly. You don't get a shot.
It is.
Yeah.
So, like,
yeah.
Some accidentally put the vehicles behind scaffolding. Like,
John Byrne would literally just have it would be just a white
3 lines
with an elevator and a car in the background.
All the way in the background.
And we'd be like, oh, that comic was hot.
John Byrne's still rocking it. And this is not a tangent we're gonna go down tonight, and we all have those. If I were to name an artist, you have an image that you instantly think of. I'm sure if I said John Buscema for Jason, I think he might lean towards Avengers, but I'm sure there's a Conan image he probably can imagine. And everybody
would be Avengers.
Okay,
no,
good. My man.
Of course, yeah.
So we can name an artist, an image instantly hits our head, and that's that version of the artist that lives in our heads. And when I think of Travis, I think of that image, that full pose image of Spartan, or just, I mean, even the covers to X-Men Wildcats. There are, or for me, even going back to fucking Dark Stars with the Trinity crossover but I mean that's young Travis, where he wasn't as fleshed out as he was 23 years ago, and I was, and that's on me. I was picturing the line work, the images that Travis used to draw, whether they were just covers or the occasional backup story, anything that would give us a couple of pages. I am not going to say that maybe this is over-rendered in some places, but it would, if somebody handed this to me, I might say that the artist who drew it, Travis, was an influence, but I don't know if I would have actually told you that I think Travis drew this book.
If somebody handed this to me and I didn't know it was Travis, I would be like, I love this person. Who's this new artist? I would like to follow their work. Yeah.
So I like the look of it. I love the character designs. I love the action. I feel for this woman because she wants to do right by her son. But yeah, like you just said, Tony, it looks great, but it's not what I imagine a Travis Strong book to look like, and that's on me. That's fine. It's been over 2 decades since we've seen him draw more than 10 pages in a row. So it's if this is his style now, if this is what we're going to get every few years when somebody decides, hey, I have an issue of something I'd like you to draw, then so be it. And if in another handful of years we get something that changes gradually from this, okay. But and not to say the Travis books that I've read and have, they're not going away, so I can go back and be like, oh, okay, remember when. But as far as continuing the Ambassador story, of the 3, this is probably the, I'm not going to say the weakest. It's my least favorite of the 3 so far.
Mm-hmm. It's so crazy
because of the story.
Yeah, exactly. Like, why have this kid be like a near school shooter?
Right? And you're going to reward him with powers now, even though it was all imaginary and make believe. Go ahead.
Right. I mean, putting aside the expectations we had for Travis to come back and draw a comic, now you're getting to me, like, the thing I found most interesting about this is it's a 6-issue series, and we're now 3 issues in. And I understand that the premise is that we're going to basically have each issue centered around one of the heroes, which is why we have 6 different artists, 6 issues. Like, I get that. So I'm not, like, particularly surprised in that regard. But to your point, I am sitting here thinking, well, like, are a lot of these things just going to be unresolved? Like, does this all roll into one grand narrative? And I have a lot of faith in Millar. Like we said, he's been prolific. I generally have been wildly entertained by the bulk of the stuff I've read of his in the last decade. Like, I just, again, he's usually not too deep. He gets in, he gets out. It's usually pretty fun. This has a lot of nuance. Each of the characters, they're laying groundwork for each of these characters, but inherently we've got 3 more issues. So if it's going to come to a head and there aren't going to be subsequent volumes, I don't think there's plans for that. It does leave me wondering after this issue, like, what is the... Because I guess we can conclude that the premise is, that her ex-husband is trying desperately to get access to this technology. But we only have 3 more issues. So is that going to happen next issue? And then we're going to, have his soups battle her soups? I don't quite know how it concludes, and that's okay. Ultimately, I don't have to know. Like, that's kind of fun to not know where it's going. But I joked, I think, after the first issue that with the Willy Wonka references that this is going to be like everlasting gobstopper. I think I was right. Like, I think that's the whole point of this. Like, he himself. Listen, Millar is surface level, right? Like, he doesn't go too deep. He himself, the character, she calls herself Willy Wonka. It's not like I'm not breaking new ground here. He puts it in the book itself, but. I think that's what this story is really about, right? 6 people given a golden ticket, and they're each being approached to sell the secrets. And I'm suspecting it's just like the Gobstopper. Like, it's actually all a test, and whoever agrees to sell the secrets is actually it's going to backfire on them. I suspect that's where we're going. Like, I think this is his. He was doing peyote one night and watching Willy Wonka, and like, I'm gonna make Willy Wonka into a superhero story, and that's what we're getting, and I'm here for that. Like, I think that could be cool, but I am curious, not nervous, but curious how we conclude this now that we're halfway through. Because I feel like we're still very much in the building of the characters phase and not the here's what the story's all about phase.
Well, who's coming up? So it's Oliver Coipel is next issue.
Yeah.
And then is there an Imonen one?
I read it last week. I know Mateo's the final issue.
And then the person, I think the person that does Bite Club or Nightclub. Juan Ramirez is doing one of them.
So he's fifth. Yeah. So okay.
Looking at those, I'm like, who does he get to do the tie everything together, like the less exciting one, because he's sort of casting, and he's like, well, all right, well, so I'll get Carl Kerschel to do this fun, youthful one, and I'll get Travis Charest to do this Paris one. It's got all this Paris stuff, kick it off quietly. But I feel like if he does wrap it up, I bet we're going to see it. I mean, obviously we'd see it in 5 because that's just how structure works, right? Like they're leading up to a big thing. You have to bring everything together in 5. So maybe, he's got this guy Juan Ramirez that he's already working with. He's sort of the odd man out as far as like who's legendary. So I wonder if that's where he ties.
It's not Ramirez. It's Buffoni.
Okay.
It's so it's Scalera, Buffoni, and Coipel are the 3 remaining.
Because that guy Buffoni's doing one of his other books.
Maybe. If he is he doing the Monarch book? Because I'm not reading that.
I don't know either. Maybe I'm just talking out my ass.
Well, I don't know. I'm not sure. Let me see if I can figure that out.
I'm here for wrong.
Oh, Buffoni did King of Spies, Dad. No, that was. He did.
No.
Oh, he's doing King of Spies too. He's doing King of Spies 2.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
So you see what I'm saying? Like a cleanup guy. Like what these guys who the marquee players. He gives them sort of like a big issue to draw, and then whoever Scalera's doing the last one, so that's a big issue. I feel like the 5th one if they're gonna pull things together, that's where it's gonna happen.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm enjoying like again. All this being said, I'm enjoying it. I mean, I'm enjoying the ride, and I do like to. I love not knowing exactly where it's going. But I also agree with you guys. I think this has been 3 issues in, slightly diminishing returns. Like the first issue, in part because it was vintage quietly, but also I just thought the setup was just killer, right? I mean, you get her, making her power play. You got the U.S. government just talking about like what a travesty it is that she wouldn't dare sell it to the highest bidder, and like, you've got her offing herself because she created a new, like all of it was just like super high level sci-fi, and I'm like, oh, this is great. And then each of these next issues has been a little more conventional. So we'll see if it picks back up, if the velocity picks back up as it finishes up.
I'm interested to see because I do think it's unless like Mark Millar's a guy that has teenage kids. You have teenage kids.
I do.
If you found your kid making out lists of how he's going to kill his classmates, like that seems like more than just sort of like a little bit of flavor, a little bit. But
but then you get to the last page, and
right.
he lied to her because it's obviously we know he had these thoughts, and so it's whether or not so even if this old woman who keeps going around because she's working for the ex-husband and she wants the 411 on the powers and what she's up and what the wife is up to. Say again?
Slugworth, right?
Slugworth. Yes, exactly.
Slugworth, yep. Mm-hmm.
If Moms isn't going to drop the dime, she could probably go to the son because Homeboy seems like he'd be willing to do something dirty for money. But it's so. I mean, there were some little things that continued the story that made me say, okay, I'm still. Millar still has me interested. I want to see where we're going with this. I want to see how all the pieces fall into place. And that's fine. If I'm supposed to dislike this kid, which I'm pretty sure I am, it's working. But yeah, I think I think when you just when you start off strong with Frank, when you give us a fun issue. I mean, shooting spree at the beginning aside, with the second issue with Kerschel, and now and you hear Travis is coming back and he's drawing an issue of Mark Millar's book. Yes, obviously I'm going to have expectations beyond belief, but between the difference in Travis's art style and the story with these characters, I was kind of let down. That said, though, it's still part of an ongoing, be it a limited series, but still part of an ongoing story that I'm sure I trust Millar to stick the landing. So I'm hoping that this may have been a hiccup, and it's really just I haven't looked to see what other people have said about this series or specifically this issue. Maybe we're in the minority. Maybe Tony and I are outliers. I don't know, but we'll. I'm looking forward to the fourth issue because it's Quapel and to see the country, the whatever gets involved in why this person gets their powers. I'm still on board. If this was the first issue, I don't know if I'd be back for the second. But you're kind of safe by putting it in the middle, and I can't. I've already spent 2 issues before this getting caught up in this story. You kind of got me. You got me on the hook, so I want to see where we're going. This isn't. It may have been a slight speed bump, but it didn't make me say I'm done with it.
No.
Yeah.
And also, if Travis is listening to this, please continue drawing comics.
Yes. Oh no, I love you, Travis. You're beyond absolutely. I'm so glad you're still around. I'm so glad you drew this book. And
I believe we call that too little, too late, gentlemen.
Oh.
I remember when I was
go ahead.
Early internet days. I was on the Bendis board, and we had like this weekly comic. Like somebody would pick out a comic, and then everybody would review it and stuff. And it was my turn to pick, and I picked out Wildsiders by J. Scott Campbell came out. I fucking love J. Scott Campbell. I was so excited. And the Bendis board fucking savaged it. Like they were just like, "This is trash, garbage. What is this bullshit?" I was just like, "Look how cool it is. They're fucking, hologram animals, and that guy looks like Jack Black, and this is fun." And then J. Scott Campbell himself popped up, and he was like, "Geez, guys, we're just trying to have fun, We're just, He showed up to defend himself, and then he never did another comic.
He killed it.
Yeah, dude. I think he's doing all right, though.
Yeah.
Again,
Yeah.
Hopefully that's not like some sort of superpower I have over Wildstorm creators. Travis, if you are here, we love you. We support you. Don't ever work with fucking Dave Stewart again.
Wow.
That's Tony, drawing the line.
I was joking the other day that Skottie's like J. Scott Campbell now. Like I he's doing so well not making comics. I don't like drawing comics. I wonder if he's ever going to draw comics again.
When you write and draw, drawing takes so much time.
Right.
I watch other people and I'm just like, how do they fucking do all these books? And I'm like, oh, they don't draw. That's the secret.
Unless you're Jeff Lemire and you can show run a TV show, draw your own graphic novel, and write 8 other books.
Yeah, that guy's a monster.
He's ridiculous, dude. It doesn't even make sense. It doesn't make sense.
I've talked to Skottie about it too, and he just, he's raising kids, he's managing to still put stuff together, and he still draws covers constantly. But
that's what I'm saying. He's like he really is like J. Scott Campbell now. Like he can draw covers, largely like Chase variant covers now for crazy money, and then sell the art for crazier money, and then sell prints of those same covers for crazy money, and go to cons and make crazy money. Like I get it. Like I beseech him all the time to draw another book because I love his art. But like I get it. I mean, I understand.
I'm very happy though that he's found people that are like a good stand-in. Like
Brett Bean. Yeah.
Brett, like
Kyle. Yeah, Kyle. Yeah.
All these guys where it's just like they have a similar energy, and it's you're drawn to people who are sort of like you.
Sure. Yeah, no doubt. Well, go ahead.
Like, Feehan, the last couple issues have been like some of Skottie's best books ever. They did that one that was just like had a soundtrack. Did you read that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, you just play a song and then it's silent for like the first 15 pages or something, and the song takes you through. It was great. Great.
For sure. Dap, in the questions, even though most of the questions are on the sci-fi tip, Jeff Carter asks a very pertinent question. He says, it's rare that Vince isn't on the show, but has there ever been a time when Dap wasn't on an episode? I seriously doubt it. The D in Dap stands for dependable. First of all, I take that as personal affront, Jeff. I get it. I see this. I see that you're basically saying Wood never shows up. The other two hold the show down.
I don't think that's what he's saying.
Listen,
I think he's saying Wood takes the most vacations where phone lines are not available.
When these guys recruited me to be on the show, I had I wanted peanut M&Ms without the blue. No, the blue.
Oh.
I wanted to, a certain caliber of wine that has to have a certain wine enthusiast rating, in temperature controlled. And I told them I was going to be out for a few weeks a year. That's just what it is, I mean, you got to.
You're the talent. You're the talent. Yeah. Yes.
But getting back to the question at hand, I feel like there's probably been an episode or two where you haven't been on, but like, to his point, I don't know if that's actually true. Have you ever missed an episode?
The only time I've missed an episode when we lived in the old house, when, of course, the fucking power went out.
Oh, right.
So I never missed an episode where, because I've been on episodes when we've been away on vacation down south at my dad's in North Carolina, and so we're off and we're down south and we're on vacation, and that Wednesday night I went into my father's den and powered up the laptop, and we still did an episode. I missed the episode when we had Donnie and Ryan on to talk about the new Venom book because we got hit with a nor'easter. And
that's right.
Yep. So anytime, and there was one episode where we were driving down actually to North Carolina to help my grandmother move from one assisted living place to another. And I listened. And so we were driving down when you guys were recording, and I got to actually listen to it. I was listening to the episode on the drive. The only time if I try to, if I am taking time off from work or if we're going away somewhere, generally I'm still going to try to find a way to still be a part of the episode. The only time I know that I have missed an episode was due to a force of nature. It wasn't because I'm taking time off or you guys get to do it without me. It was extenuating circumstances beyond my control.
That is fucking bananas. Golf clap to you. That's crazy. Like, aww. I think people need to understand what that means. We have done 850 of these. We have, now I don't have the exact timestamp, but just rounding, we have done at least 3,000 hours of content. It's probably close to like 3,500 hours, but like at a minimum, and that's not including like all the bonus stuff, but we've done it like between 3,000 and 3,800 hours of content, and you have missed like 10 hours of it. Like, that is insane. Number one, I love you for it. Number two, dude, take a fucking vacation, please. Like, you and Renee, book some plane tickets and treat yourselves, for God's sakes. Renee's all big time now.
That's true.
The money's rolling in like creepy stuff, and magic could dispel. Take a goddamn trip, please. Anyway, but no, that's pretty awesome, dude. That's pretty awesome. I think you and Vince have collectively missed 1/10 of the time. I mean, I miss at least 2 episodes a year. It's probably sometimes like 3 or 4. So like, add that up over 15 years. That's like, let's say like 50 episodes. So I've missed like 150 to 200 hours of the show. and I wasn't on the first 2 episodes, if we're being honest, as you recall, because you were joking if it was ever going to show up. But you and Vince have probably combined for like 30 hours of missed show. That's crazy. We are really codependent, aren't we? It's pretty nuts.
Yeah, no, yeah. It's
okay. Well, lighten.
But then at least, but I think at least it's offset by those special episodes, like pre-con weekend episodes, where we're all together at your place, and I mean sure. So I mean, we try to. I look at it that way, where it's like, yeah, if at least if obviously throughout the year, there's going to be a couple of episodes where all 3 of us are not going to be there. But when we are, when we can do something special, like the con episodes, or like meeting each other at Frazetta Museum, or you guys came here when the pandemic hit, I think that at least those are the times where I think whatever sacrifices I may give up personally for the show, I that's when I feel like it makes it all worthwhile.
No, I respect that. So our boy Hassan wants to know, who is a cooler captain, Solo or Kirk? Now, I think that's an interesting question, because at first I'm like, well, wait a minute. Like, I don't think of Han Solo as a captain. Like, which is to say that, like, he is the captain of the Millennium Falcon, but like, it's like a, it's
not a rank.
He's got a crew.
It's not, right? Yeah,
crew. Like, he's a crew of, like they're like a crew of adventurers. And I understand that, like, I guess in canon he becomes a leader of a leader of the rebellion. Like, so I guess it's but for me, like, when I first heard the question, I thought, well, it's got to be Kirk, because I don't really think of Solo as a captain. Like, if you're asking me if the heart of the question is who do I think is cooler, well, and we're probably at odds here, I'm going with Solo. That I mean, that's where I sit, but that, again, that's just because, like, my love for Star Trek doesn't really sit in the Kirk part of the Star Trek universe.
Right.
I mean, my dad loved Star Trek, the OG, which is why I'm sure many people my age, I was familiar with it, and I saw a lot of the reruns with him, and it was cool. Like, I wasn't like anti it, but it did, it was definitely old school for me. But then TNG came along, and that was my shit. I mean, I adored that as much as anything. So if
he had said Solo or Picard,
I'd go with Picard. Yeah,
oh, okay.
I think Picard's cooler than Solo. But I mean, Solo's like, he's an all-time pop culture character for someone that's born in the early 70s like I was. So for me, it's Solo. I'm curious what you have to say, though, because you're, again, you lean toward Trek, but you love Star Wars too.
With this particular question, Kirk is not my favorite Trek captain,
right?
And as much swagger Kirk may have, there's very few fictional characters in my mind that are as cool as Han Solo.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you think about, obviously I'm not trying to say he's like him, but when you think about pop culture characters that people thought were cool, you've got the Fonz, and there are a few other characters here and there, but I know I just threw it out there, but because it's I mean, that's what you think about. Someone thinks, depending on your age, someone thinks of certain characters,
but then once you realize what a nerd Henry Winkler is, it was kind of
100%. Yeah, it's great. But no, it's first of all, I mean, Han shot first. Han gave, he's cold-hearted. He just wanted the money, and obviously, over time, the people not emotionally close but physically close to him started to wear him down. So it was nice to see what was inside that shell. But no, it's to answer Haas's question, it's between those two, it's Solo.
Nice. What about you, Tom?
Yeah, I agree. Han Solo. Kirk, while he does cool things,
right?
I mean, he's just like an admiral too. He's just like a guy that works at an office at a certain point.
Right. Yeah.
It's a spaceship.
And it wasn't even, and it wasn't so much that if you think Kirk was cool, Kirk is the epitome. When I think of, because that's another thing about that I like about Star Trek, is the fact that it's the whole rising tide thing. When you surround yourself with good people, with competent people, with people who you can trust and depend on, and the converse is true. It's Kirk isn't cool because he's Kirk. Kirk is cool because of who he surrounds himself with. He's cool because he's got Spock on one side, McCoy on the other. He's got Scotty running the ship, and that's I mean, Kirk isn't even the coolest dude on the Enterprise from the original series. So it's a solid question. I definitely appreciate it, but it's really not much of a debate for me.
Nice.
I think when they tried, like when J.J. Abrams came in, they were sort of Han Solo and Kirk up.
Yeah, like if it was if you were asking who's cooler, Chris Pine Kirk, Kelvin versus Kirk, or original Prime timeline Kirk, I'd probably have to go with Pine.
Yeah, I was going to say I think Pine is cooler than
Shatner.
But again, different eras, right?
Yep.
Like different eras.
Yeah.
All right, I want to give some love because there's some conceptual continuity with having Tony on to talk about this particular book. Because again, for those that are newer to the show, I mean, you're obviously familiar with Tony because he's on a hell of a lot, but maybe you don't remember the origin story. So we knew Tony way back in the day when he wasn't Stray Dogs Tony Fleecs, My Little Pony Tony Fleecs. He was struggling artist trying to get in the industry Tony Fleecs, and he listened to the show and he was on our. We used to have a message forum called Mundan's Bar that was very vibrant, and he was a part of that community, and that's where we got to know him, back in the day, like before he was type of a thing, and we've been friends ever since. And that is a similar story to our relationship with Ryan Browne, aka Ryan Brownie. I got to give credit to Niesman, right? Niesman put us on to Browne when we first started doing the show because they were both Chicago guys. Well, I mean, Brownie's a Detroit guy, but they knew each other from the Chicago comic scene, to be fair. And I think the first C2E2 is we met Ryan that he was doing he's doing God Hates. I assume it was God Hates Astronauts, right?
Yep.
Right? Is that? Yeah. And super fun guy, and he also was listening to the show when we started, and we kind of struck up fast friendships. And he's been on the show a bunch of times. Admittedly, he hasn't been on in recent years. I hope to rectify that. No, actually, we had him on. Well, actually, we had him on
right when 8 Billion Genies.
He made his triumphant comeback. That's right before 8 Billion Genies. But yeah, so I wanted to talk about 8 Billion Genies because it just strikes me as like it warms my heart. I think you both have had similar like arcs in the sense that we knew you when, but now you in the last few years have experienced well-deserved and tremendous financial and commercial success. And again, you put in the time, you kept at it, you kept putting out the product and believing in yourselves, and now you're reaping the rewards, and I think it's awesome. And Ryan, I think when he's come on the show over the years, if you listen to the episodes, he was very, very candid right with us about how it's for him it was dejecting because he's if those of you listening aren't familiar with Ryan's art style, it's definitely not like mainstream. It's definitely grittier, like a little more organic, a little more frenetic. And, he tried to make a go of mainstream comics, got a few gigs at Marvel and the like, and it just didn't work out because they didn't love his style. And he just kept putting out his product, and then found the crowdsourcing angle, and that was a big boon to him. It kind of gave him the lifeline he needed to continue to make comics. And then all the credit, again, I'm going to have to eat some crow here. He became friends with Charest Soule, who, at the time was a rising in prominence artist at Marvel, writer at Marvel. I famously, belittled Soule and said he was dead to me because of the way he handled Wolverine. A bit of it was tongue in cheek, but at the end of the day, I certainly lambasted the dude. But Ryan and Charles became fast friends and began collaborating together, and they've now had two massively successful collaborations, and I think that 8 Billion Genies has been like so cool to see because much like you Tony with Stray Dogs and the doors is open for you and the financial success it's had, like it's the same with 8 Billion Genies. I mean, I remember when we were at New York Comic Con last year, normally we'd see Ryan at a con and we could sit and chit chat with him for 20-30 minutes with no issue, right? Just catch up on life. At New York Comic Con, we couldn't do that because he had a massive line the entirety of the 4 days and was just selling gobsmacking amounts of variant covers and signed books and the like, just raking in the cash. You could hear the cash register ringing in the background. And it was great. Yeah, I would love to have had the time to catch up with him, but it was like so affirming to see him put in close to 15 plus years of making comics, and then to finally get that landslide of success and of adoration. And part of it is because 8 Billion Genies, almost the second that I think the first issue came out, was bought by Amazon to be turned to TV show. Now, I assume it's still going on. Like, these, how these things are with media. They're very mum about them once they get picked up, and then you don't really hear much about them until they're either done or canceled, right? Like, you don't really get a lot of updates as to. But as far as I know, it's still going on and it's still in the pipeline. And that's been great. But 8 Billion Genies finished up, maybe 3-4 weeks ago, recently. Like, it's been within the last month. The 8th and final issue came out, and I saved it all. We read the first 2 or 3 issues when Ryan was last on to talk about it. He had sent us them ahead for the release, but I decided to wait for the rest of it and then barreled through issues 3 through 8. This month, and it just was wonderful. It was so much fun. And again, like, it's not dissimilar in its aesthetic to Ryan's career work. Like, he's always been one who loves to put just crazy images together on a page, things that make you go like, wait, what? And so this kind of story, and for those that don't remember, the story is pretty simple. One day, everybody on the planet gets a genie, like a little blue-looking electronic, like 2-dimensional apparition shows up and says, "Hey, I'm a genie. Unlike what you've heard in stories, I don't give you 3 wishes. I give you 1 wish, but whatever you wish for, I give you," and then I disappear. And so 8 billion people on the planet all get a genie, and hijinks literally ensue. And you chronicle what happens over first the course of like the first few minutes to the next few hours, to the next 8 hours, to the next 8 days. You get it, so on and so forth, until over the course of the series you get through 80 years, and then you get a concluding issue. To Tony's point, like, you kind of get like those 80 years through the first 7 issues, and then the 8th issue is almost like an epilogue of sorts. I just thought it was incredibly creative and fun, and it just, you can see how if this does get picked up for a show, it could be a show that lasts for 10 years because, I mean, think of all the stories you could do about people making wishes and the consequences of those wishes and all that. And I just thought it was a perfect vehicle visually for Ryan and the kind of stories he likes to tell, because he could do, a city of flying whales. We mentioned whales before. There's a panel where there's this haven city, a safe haven place, where it's a gigantic whale and the city's built on top of the whale that's flying in the sky. And it's like, I'm like, he can draw like the craziest shit would be nonsensical in either way, but in a world where everybody can make wishes come true, it makes sense. And I thought it was great. And where I say I'm eating crow, it's because, all kidding aside, like I mean, Charles wrote the book, and I think it's terrific. Like, it's funny and it's well paced and it's well structured, and I think it has a heartfelt core. And so I got to give Charles credit too. I mean, I think they really were a perfect pairing with this, and I loved it, and I hope that people pick up the, I'm sure, pending hardcover collection of the whole 8 issues, because it's certainly worth it. So it's really great. I mean, I'm not gonna say like that it's the best work of Ryan's career, only in the sense that I love all of his stuff in a big way. But it's certainly like another great feather in his cap, and I really sincerely hope for his sake that it does become a show and goes on for a long time.
I think just that, like, as a team, I don't know if it's like, I don't think it's necessarily a situation where together they're stronger than they are apart, but I do feel like the balance that each of them brings to the other one is sort of perfect. Like, they really are a good team together.
Yeah.
Because I feel like sort of some of the stuff that I think Ryan's stuff is always cool, but I think what sort of may have held it back as far as being like a smash hit, with the general public, is the sort of like the most Ryan-y stuff about it, which is, like when he just gets fucking crazy wacky, or just like so like jokes that like are Ouroboros that just circle around each other and just swallow their own tail.
And they're hilarious only to him, which is great. I love that.
Right.
Yeah.
Isn't this hilarious? And then he puts it up there, and like if you get it, you get it. But if you don't, then it just sort of like zips right past you. And I remember one time, me and my studio mates, we like basically wrote a guy's name in the book of grudges, because at a dinner one time he was just like, well, it's just so hard to do humor in comics, but he was a unfunny person. And it's not hard to do humor in comics. Like, it's not hard if you're funny. It's not hard to do something that's funny, but it is hard to sell it, because comics aren't necessarily where people come to buy humor, even though like it's comics, comedy, whatever.
Well, do you grok on? I mean, I hope you agree. I mean, often I always make the point that humor to me is just more subjective, right? Like than other types. So it just inherently, like, I feel like something that's perceived as funny by some is also going to be like vampire, like garlic to a vampire to others, right? Because it's like, it's like a wider spectrum of what people think is funny or not funny.
Yeah,
so
maybe. I mean, there is still a skill to it, the same way that, like, if you're good at telling a story, if you're good at writing, like drawing a fight scene, like that, you can be good at doing a joke in a comic that same way, like.
Right. No, I agree. Yeah.
So it is subjective to a certain extent, but also, like, I do think that if you're funny, you can make comics that are funny, and they're just like, but not like people are going to piss their pants when they read Time Shopper, but, like, I'm a funny enough guy, and, like, if you read the whole thing, there's at least one or two things that you go like, right on, like, this was enjoyable.
Right. Right.
But like, talking about Time Shopper, and I talked about that on here before, about how, like, what a struggle it was to get that thing made and out there, and had to kickstart it and all this stuff. And, like, when we solicited it, it sold terribly through Diamond. And it's not just because it was from, like, a publisher that people didn't trust, and it was a price point that was crazy and yada yada. But, like, it is just real hard to sell straight jokes. And I was talking to somebody else recently, and was sort of like, they were writing sort of like what I would call pre-Charles Soule Brownie stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's like full wacky, full crazy. Like, you're just like, woof, this guy's really going for it, And I told him, like, look, sorry, I'm under attack.
Apparently.
Seriously, yeah. Paratroopers are flying in, dude.
Like, you can, like, somebody eventually is going to really break through with this. But if it wasn't Ryan, and it wasn't, like, so many of these people we've seen that come and take a swing at this, it seems like you would have to be the, Jerry Seinfeld of people that draw comics to make the humor comic, the comedy comic that comes out, and people just go like, here it is, finally, this is our saga for jokes.
Right.
So you're much better off, like, being funny and wrapping that up inside a comic that is some sort of genre comic, or like I don't like horror movies that are like comedy horror movies, but I like all my characters in horror movies to be funny, or not all of them, but just, like, I like there to be jokes, but I don't like the action part to be a joke,
Yep.
I don't know, but going back to Alien Genies, I think, like, where these two found each other is, I think, like, Charles Soule's stuff has never been more fun and sort of, like, heartfelt, but then he also is sort of, like, holding a sort of structure on, like, sort of like pinning Brownie in on his more wackadoo impulses. I think.
Yeah, it's interesting because, yeah, I agree with what you're saying, and what I remember vividly, I was leaving a C2E2, and I shared a ride. I think it was pre-Uber, so I shared a taxi to the airport with Brownie, and we were going through security together and stuff, and we were taking different flights. And I remember him, as we were going through security, saying, "Oh man, like, I'm gonna do something with Charles Soule." Like, this is before curse words ever was a thing. I'm like, oh, I'm like, really? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, that's interesting. I'm like, because all I had seen from Soule had been, like, these super serious, like dramatic superhero arcs, right? Like they're like, I think he had just started Daredevil, but he obviously did the Wolverine stuff. And I'm like, interesting, man. And I remember him saying at the time, like, you wouldn't think it, but he's hilarious. And I'm like, okay, I don't know, like, sure he is. Like, is he really hilarious? Like, really? But I mean, I guess the proof is in the pudding, right? Like they have, and I think I mean, that was many years ago, but they have one of those like genuine friendships, right? Like it's, yeah, I mean, yes, they are collaborators in this stuff, but like they're like legit great friends, and like I think genuinely love being around each other and make each other laugh and stuff. And I think that's a great partnership, and one I doubt I don't see why they'd ever stop at this point unless they're falling out, because obviously it's been phenomenal for both of their
It's
careers
like
to work
Van
together.
Lente and Dunleavy. It's like they're just going to be hand in hand for like eternity.
Yeah.
It's hearing Ryan talk that way about Charles just makes me think about the industry pros who try to convince me that Zdarsky is funny. But
this is why I say it's subjective.
It is, absolutely is, dude. So many people love Zdarsky.
Yeah.
I get it. But it's all good.
I think his comments are funny. I just think like his weird affect is weird to me.
That's
chums. No, thank you.
I've been waiting for 8 Billion Genies to wrap up before I catch up with it, so I'll be getting to it soon.
Yeah,
But,
and I didn't give any spoilers, but I mean, I do think it would. And again, like, and you know, look, I mean, I think part of being, I hate the term adulting, but part of being mature and getting wiser with age is that you can admit when you're wrong. And I haven't had the chance to come across Charles at a con in years, but if in fact we do see him like at New York, because we he's with Ryan or whatever, like I'm going to shake his hand and apologize to him. Not because like ever, like I doubt even, like I don't think he ever cared what I had to say, but like I definitely like wrote him off in a way that I think was unfair, in retrospect. Like I do think the guy's obviously proven to be a versatile and talented writer. I mean, certainly not everything he's written has been for me, but I think at this point, like when I look at the breadth of the things he's done in different genres of different types, and they've all been very well received. I think I definitely sold the guy short those years ago when I was panning him. I think that wasn't fair. So
I think when he started, he was pretty much. I knew of him as like Scott Snyder's friend. Like that's how he got the job at DC.
He was corporate lawyer guy turned writer.
Yep,
and it was, yeah.
And I know he's written Star Wars novels. He's of course written Star Wars books, the comics. But yeah, I can appreciate. I do appreciate 8 Billion G's. I never got into curse words. It's probably something I'll check out once one of these years.
This is me. Yeah, I have the hardcover. I think I don't remember if it's Kickstarter or through Image. I forget, but I have the omnibus hardcover of it. Even though, like you said, I really like it. I did that mainly to support Ryan.
Yep.
Not that he needs it now. I guess now he's doing it right now. But back then, I felt like he could have used the support. But yeah, I'm with you. Like my enjoyment of 8 Billion Genies was so dramatic that I feel like I'm guessing my sort of like unfair anti-Soule perspective kept me from diving into that book, and I suspect if I do get around to it with our Regina piles being massive, you never know, but I'll probably really enjoy it. So I'm of the same mind. Like I suspect if I do go and crack that open, I'll be like, damn, why wasn't I reading this back in the day?
You can pre-order 8 Billion Genies from our sponsor, cheapgraphicnovels.com, for $27.99, and it is due.
Nice.
The release date is July.
Nice. Oh, maybe it's in this month's previews.
I think
I haven't looked at this month's
or it might have
previews
been.
yet.
It might have been in because it's July. They like to do the collections a while out. So I think it was a couple months ago. It might have been in there.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool.
Were you going to say something, Tony?
I was going to say, you don't need to apologize to Charles. So you just tell him you like the new thing. Nobody wants to hear, I'm sorry, I used to hate your work.
Oh, no.
Well, I don't think it's so much that.
Conceptual. I'm saying like karma-wise. I'm not, I agree. I wouldn't be like, hey, you don't know me, but I shat on you 10 years ago. Like that. No, I get that. Like the only reason I throw it out there is because, and again, we're an open book. I mean, there was a time, and we may have talked about this at the time, when they were promoting curse words.
Yeah.
When
and we wanted Ryan
on
on
the show many times,
yep.
was going to come on the show, and I was very honest and said, "Well, you know how we do. I can't guarantee that I'm not going to be critical of Charles's work to date, like, and I want to be upfront about that because I don't want it to be awkward."
Yeah.
And I believe and again, my memory's hazy. This was probably 8-10 years ago. I believe Ryan, understandably at the time, said, "Well, all right, I won't come on if that's the case." And I'm like, "Yeah, respect." And then I think it was a thing where, it was like the he said, she said. Then I think it was like Ryan was like, "Well, Charles is not happy with what he said about him, so like I don't think it'd be cool for me to come on the show since like he's upset." And then I was like, "Oh, okay, well, fair." Like, and at the time I was probably like, "Well, F that dude. Like, whatever. Like, we don't like it's your like you like we you don't if you don't want to come on, don't come on." And again, that's all like buried under the bridge. That's why I say like I do think now. Do I think Charles remembers this? Probably not. But like there was a time when he was very aware of the fact that I was critical of him on the show. So like it isn't like he was aware of it at some point. Again, whether it means anything to him now, I can't say. But like it wouldn't be like out of the blue where he's just like, "I don't even know who you are. Like, why are you bringing this up?" So
I'm glad I scratched at that scab. That was an exciting story. Thank you.
Sure. Listen, we're an open book. It is what it is, man.
Same baby.
We'll have to do it. But like, I'm trying to think. Like, are there any creators that I just genuinely would have no love lost for if I saw at a con? And there are. I'm not going to air them here, but like there are a few that come to mind immediately, but not many. There's a few that are like dead to me though. Mainly, it's mainly people that screwed people over on Kickstarter.
Mm-hmm.
That I have trouble with. I do have trouble with that, like
You
severely.
take that personally.
Huh?
You take that personally.
I do. Well, I feel like it's theft.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, when you're talking about tens of thousands of dollars, it's theft. But anyway, let's keep it positive. Okay, this one is I don't have a response to this, but Dap, this one's mainly for you, I guess. This is from Tomio. Are you all secure in the truth that Benjamin Sisko is Star Trek's greatest captain?
You know what? Prior to the third season of Picard, I 100%, absolutely. Of all the Trek captains, Sisko is an absolute badass, and I would be honored and scared to serve on any ship he commands. However, even though it was only a handful of episodes, and I'd love to see more of him, Captain Shaw, because we only saw so much of him in the third season of Picard, Captain Shaw is somebody I think who demands respect. But no, Tomio is correct. There is no more badass hardcore captain that commands a Starfleet ship than Sisko. As much as I enjoy Michael Burnham, and Lord knows she kicks ass, and Philippa Georgiou was great, but no, yeah, Sisko is absolutely where it's at.
I have never seen an episode of Deep Space Nine.
Stop.
Yeah.
Oh, now my heart hurts.
I really have no frame of reference for it.
Deep Space Nine.
Worf was on it, right? Like, is that the
Worf was on it, starting with I think the third or fourth season, but
okay,
and that his adding him to the crew was phenomenal. They didn't do it like, oh, here's Wolverine, we're going to add him to the Fantastic Four. There was a legit reason,
sure,
and a logical explanation for him to be there. Because even O'Brien, who of course was one of the engineers on the Enterprise and the transporter chief, and he was the chief engineer on the station. But Deep Space Nine has the honor of having one of it's usually my number one, but all time, hands down, favorite / best hours of episodic television is from is from Deep Space Nine.
I might have to roll it into the rotation. You know what it is? It's just about, again, life cycles. Deep Space Nine was 1993 to 1999.
Yep.
I was in college from 92 to 96, and then starting my career in finance, where I worked 20 hours a day for a bunch of years. So like, that window of time with pop culture was the only time in my life I really was unplugged. It was the only time in my life I wasn't reading comics. So that's why, right? And then
I was like me with Voyager and Enterprise. I was just, because of work, because of my schedule, I wasn't able to watch those shows as they were coming out. But the first season or two, they're not necessarily growing pains, but they're definitely getting their sea legs. But once you get past those first few episodes and you see everything come together, we've got it. It was the one, because basically the Next Generation, everything got kind of wrapped up in an hour. Everything was told in that 1 hour on a Saturday evening, and that was that. You would occasionally have a two-parter. You would have the cliffhanger with the seasons, between seasons, but for the most part, they wrapped however the episode started, the story concluded, it all wrapped up. They were on their way by the hour's end. Deep Space Nine actually gave you season-long storylines. You had wars, you've had deaths. It was heavy. It was a darker series. There was actual damage done to Starfleet, to these characters that actually were felt years later. It picks up in the current Paramount Plus series. So it definitely left its mark. It's probably from start to finish the strongest of all Trek series, and the only thing is, Discovery has, in my mind, Discovery has the best first season of any Star Trek series, because it started strong and it just kept going, whereas every other, it's like that with any television show. The first season, especially with the pilot, and then whatever changes the studio has to make after the test screenings, the first seasons of almost every television show can be a bit rough. That was absolutely not the case with Discovery's first season, but Deep Space Nine is start to finish one of the most solid Trek series out there.
Literally, my buddy Nick was just telling me this exact same thing yesterday, because he ran into the showrunner out on the picket lines yesterday at Warner Brothers.
Which
the guy who
not Terry Matalas,
maybe
the showrunner for which show? For Picard?
Oh, for Deep Space.
Oh, for Deep Space Nine?
Yeah.
Oh crap. That was, oh shoot. I'm sorry. No, I'll.
Basically, it was the guy who Paramount was paying attention more to Voyager.
Yep.
And they had just wrapped up Next Gen, and so they just sort of let him cook and let him do his own thing. And he was the one that was just like, well, let's make this story go on all season, like that.
Yep.
Do that type of stuff. He said he ran into that guy and told him he was a big fan.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, 2 Deep Space Nine combos in a row. That's the sort of nerdy world that I'm living in.
It really is. Damn.
I think my favorite captain, I want to say Captain Connor Roy from what did he fly, the Excelsior? Cameron from...
Oh, Cameron from Alan Ruck. From Generations, the one who... Kirk's last movie.
Yeah, he showed up and saved the day.
He says, "You want to take her out, Captain?" And yeah, he was all... No, he was fun. It was funny to see, because he is such... I feel so bad for him as Connor Roy sometimes, man. This poor bastard. Yeah. I know Jason loves Secession. I don't think he started it yet, only because he doesn't want to waste any more time in that world.
I felt bad for Connor until that whole the part where he was talking about keeping his 1% in his presidential.
Oh yes, yeah, from a couple weeks ago. Yeah, and then, poor bastard. And then, but then you feel bad for him when they're on the boat for the wedding, and they get the news about Dad, and I'm like, and he's got tunnel vision. He doesn't see anything beyond the moment, and that's fine. And then he's going to tell Willow, it's okay if you want to just marry me for my money. It's okay if you're ever going to leave me. It's like, bro, come on. Who does this, you poor bastard? Who hurt you? Well, obviously we know who hurt him, but still.
Super, super damaged.
Was it Ira Bear?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the person who was.
Yeah, cool. That's very cool.
I was also super psyched when Soule was the captain in one of those.
He was the captain of the Undiscovered Country, and his daughter was on the bridge when your boy Cameron was captain in Generations.
Yes.
Because Kirk's like, when did Sulu have time to have a kid? It's like, bro, people have families just because you don't.
Yeah, Kirk had kids.
Yeah, Kirk had a kid he didn't know about.
Yeah. Well,
listen, Kirk got him where he fit in.
He absolutely did, which is why he didn't know about the kids he had. But no, the
that term may upset Tony's sensibilities. I should have used a different term.
I feel very special about Princess Leia, and I don't want to talk about it.
All right, here's one. We're going to let Tony answer this first. This is from our buddy Chris, who just made a big move cross country. Are you more or less the same as far as how into Star Wars you are now as you were back in the day when the original trilogy existed and for years everyone was hungry for more? Now, you're a smidge younger than us, so I'm not even sure if the trilogy nostalgia was as strong of a tractor beam for you. But, what is your perspective on that?
Oh, no, it was. Like,
okay.
Star Wars is I'm not one of those people where, like, Star Wars is their whole personality, but, like, it was a big deal for me. And, like, as far as, like, collecting goes, like, I'd love to go to Star Wars Celebration and get, like, Star Wars toys and posters. Like, there's a whole hallway in my house that's just all Star Wars stuff. So, like, I'm pretty into Star Wars. But I was way more into Star Wars before, when it was just 3 movies and, the Ewok specials and a couple cartoons. Like, when those... I feel like the most I was into it was when those THX Laserdiscs came out. And it was just like, now you can see it. They're going to re-release them in theaters. They're going to start putting some new special effects. I was into it when the special editions were coming out, too. I was so psyched about that. But I do think like we were saying earlier, the more of it there is, the less special it feels, sort of. To the point where when I was moving into this house, I had to packed up my old place and I put all my Star Wars toys into crates, and they're still in crates. Like, it's just in a corner.
Damn.
I'm like, like I haven't been like, well, I should decorate this place with all my little toys and stuff. Maybe it's because I'm trying to, want to have like a swank pad to bring chicks back to if I ever get done with work. But there's just like all packed away. So less so right now. Although I remain optimistic about it. I always feel like they could get me back. And some of the stuff that other people were out on, I was way in on. Like, I love Episode 7. Like, I think that's dope. And I feel like obviously I didn't stick the landing on that thing. But, as far as like new characters and the feeling of it and the vibe and the moments, like, just give me Star Wars moments. That's what I like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I think part of it, though, is just simply the fact that, and we've talked about this a trillion times on the show, nostalgia is hard to beat, right? I mean, because it's, and so the things you love at a certain point in your life are almost always going to be the best versions of the thing. Even if you continue to like that thing forever, like here we are all in our, late 40s, early 50s talking about comic books, like it's like an Avengers comic I read tomorrow, even if it's amazing, isn't going to be like when I first read Avengers when I was 10 years old. Like it's never going to be like that. Like, and that's fine. Like, I mean, it doesn't have to be like that to still be great. But there's no comparison to, I mean, as a kid, Star Wars was everything. I mean, it was magic. Those 3 films were perfect to me and to my friends. Like because we were too young to know how to criticize film. They were like almost literally like magic. It was like an incredible world with this connected mythology that we all were into. I mean, I didn't have many friends, if any, really growing up that loved comic books like I did. But I didn't have a single friend that didn't love the Star Wars movies, right? Like it was just a thing, and so, yeah. I mean, I think that it's been waves for me. Again, because I'm a parent of a certain age, I don't have the disdain for the prequels like many of you do. I don't. Again, as an adult, I can't look at those movies and say they're like as good films, but my kids' first exposure and love for Star Wars, which persists to this day, were those prequels, and then for me, and I've said this, and this may sound like a hot take, I personally think that the Filoni cartoon verse is the best Star Wars ever. Like putting the 3 films are their own thing, but like I think if I had never seen Star Wars before, like today, and you were like, all right, Wood, this year you're going to consume all Star Wars things ever created, I believe that Filoni's cartoons, most notably Clone Wars, would objectively be the best stuff that was ever made. I think they're amazing, and I watch them with my kids, and we all love them, and I am stunned how well they've held up. I've watched the Clone Wars twice now because my youngest was too young when it was first coming out, and then we watched it over the pandemic. I think they're incredible. And so, like, those I'm in love with almost as much as the original films for different reasons. But in terms of, like, just pure visceral excitement, and, like, if you just said to me, if I'm taking some kind of psychological exam or a Rorschach test and you say Star Wars, it's going to be the trilogy. I mean, it's always going to be that, no matter what happens from here. So, yeah.
I think I like Rebels more than Clone Wars. But like consistency wise, I feel like Rebels is stronger in a row. But
I consider it all together. To me, it's all one thing. I know that animation styles are different, but I love Bad Batch. To me, it's all one big thing.
I'm real excited about Ahsoka and just seeing how that ties. Although the Filoniverse does have my real least favorite thing ever to happen in any Star Wars, Palpatine returning, anything, which is when they had time travel. I'll never forgive him for that shit. I saw him on a plane, and I was like, this motherfucker's next to me at baggage claim. I'm gonna say something about that fucking time travel, because
wow.
When it happened, I was like, nope, no, oh come on, what? I feel like one of those chuds that hates episode 8, that has girls in it. Or whatever. I think it's that time travel. I get that. I want to join a men's rights group.
Holy shit!
That's ridiculous.
Where do I sign up, EVS?
Jeff, what about you? Are you in the same boat?
Yeah, I think I am. Yeah, it's the trilogy was absolutely. I was enamored with it, and then we get nothing for so long. And I understand,
Well, we had the extended universe, right? Like we often don't, but like.
Well, no, we had the comics, we had the novels.
The novels were amazing. I mean, a lot of the Zahn stuff was incredible.
Splinter the Mind's Eye.
I was definitely into that for sure. Yeah.
There are certain properties, and it's stupid, but like if it doesn't happen in its original medium, like if the movies, if the novels or the Dark Horse comics, if they were canon, if they were part of it, if I didn't see it on the screen, like it kind of just, for some reason, like it didn't register. And that's stupid because you're going to ignore like so many great stories. So that's not a good way to look at things. But there are so when I just think about the live action stuff, when I think about the movies, you'd get the Ewok. We had the Droids cartoon, but I mean, you had little things here and there. But then, pretty much as far as something visually exciting to watch, we didn't have anything until 1999. We get the beginning of the prequels, and I understand, just like the original trilogy may not have been made for our parents, the prequels weren't made for us if we have kids taking them to see that. I totally get it. And that doesn't, just because they maybe have been more in tune for things that, kids might enjoy, although I don't know if, cutting Darth Maul in half is something the kids are going to be excited about. But if you have that happening, the story, the acting, there should still be something for. It's like if you're going to go watch a Disney movie with your kid, and your kids will be, so you go to see Toy Story with your kids, and they're excited because they're watching Toy Story, but there's still something there's still something that tugs at your grown ass cold dead heart, because Pixar is writing something that's going to connect with everybody watching it, and that's what I felt was missing from the prequels. It's like it's a visual spectacle, and this is great to look at, but and Hayden Christensen acting as Anakin wasn't, and whether that's Hayden or whether that's Lucas's direction, there were still things that were lacking in the prequel. So but I am glad that they exist, so that it could have brought in a new generation to enjoy Star Wars. And
I think the best example of all this for me always is the X-Men cartoon. Like,
God, yeah.
I have I'm as hardcore an X-Men fan as you'll find. I think the X-Men cartoon is like legit bad. Like,
it is. It's so bad.
Like, I think the art style, I think the animation is horrendous. It's choppy. It's super low budget. Like, it's nonsensical. Yes. But like, that is like, I just punched someone in the face. Like people listening are probably gonna unsubscribe. Like, for a certain generation, maybe like 8 to 10 years younger than us, that was their gateway not only to mutants but like to comics.
Julian.
And for that, I love it. Like, I love that the X-Men cartoon exists, because it really did bring in tons of people in their 30s right now into comics forever, and that's awesome. So I'm but like, as a person who thinks like I adore mutant stuff of all kinds, like I think it's like unwatchably bad. Yeah. Like it's that bad. Like, there have been a few points in my life where I'm like, oh, okay, like I'll give this another try. I mean, I love the X-Men, right? Like, and then I'll like watch like an episode and be like, nah, it's still horrible.
I'm good. Yeah.
And again, it's like I understand they were like, well, it was of its time. Well, we had Batman animated series.
Yes.
I mean, we had Justice League Unlimited. Like, we had some incredible looking cartoons that also were mature and well structured. So it really wasn't of its time. Like, that's not an excuse, right? Like, this isn't like 1950s like black and white Superman, where they had to like have the dude on a clothesline and have him go across the screen. Like, what I'm saying? Like yes. It was, there were really great animation. There was really great animation happening at the time. Like, Akira was being turned into an anime at that time. Like you could have done some pretty cool stuff, right? Like Robotech was like 10 years, came out 10 years before that. Like, and it wasn't like, so, but my point is, I'm getting off the kilter. My point is like, I always think like that is for me the top example. Like yes, like it doesn't have to be for me, but I'm still glad that it happened, because it was a gateway. Yeah.
And as I've gotten older, it doesn't even, there are parts of 7, 8, and 9 that are a whiff. I mean, almost once a month in our chats with the NC boys and Vander, someone will mention Jake Skywalker, and I can't believe they put that, and I chuckle. But even though there are things you could scoff at with those last three movies, it's still Star Wars. It's like, you know, what's the analogy with the sex repeats? It's like it doesn't matter if it's bad. I understand that the last three movies might not light everybody's world on fire. I'll still watch them because it's still Star Wars. I'll still just kick back and I'll be like, all right, I'm just gonna go watch some space battles and racist aliens. But there's just things that I think, as yes, back then after Return of the Jedi, of course I want more. I need more Star Wars to get the toys and now we're lousy with Star Wars content, and whether it's Andor, whether it's Kenobi, whether it's even the Book of Boba Fett, which, yes, it might be the weakest that we've gotten so far of all the live action Star Wars shows, and I'm still gonna sit back and watch the story unfold of what the people who are making it want to tell. I'm glad it's there, so I'm still. Yeah, my excitement level.
Me. If I could go, I could magically delete that from existence. I would delete it without hesitation.
I absolutely get it, and I don't blame anybody for feeling that way. I absolutely support the decisions and the opinions, but it's there, and will I rewatch it? Probably not anytime soon.
Like Tony feels about Dave Stewart's coloring. So I feel
damn,
like it sullied an otherwise perfect character for me. But anyway, yeah.
No, I can get that. That's
no, that's fine. Listen, but to your point, in the grand scheme of all the Disney Star Wars shows, it's like if it was a 6-issue miniseries, it's like the third issue was like meh. But like the whole series was a banger. Like everything else has been so awesome. Like it's fine.
Yep.
You know what's crazy about that Boba Fett show is that they have Grief Karga in The Mandalorian, who they made into basically that same character, and it's just like, what? Why not just have fucking Boba Fett be a bounty hunter? Like that's what we like.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. They're just like, well, he's a mayor, you know, and he's got things to do.
There's the two.
Yeah. The best luck. Yeah, the best luck.
Let's move on.
Tony, are there any comics that you've been reading that you're like, why the fuck aren't those three talking about this gem?
Well, no. You guys,
okay.
You read more comics than I do. And when I talked about Black Cloak last time I was on here, you guys all, at least a bunch of you had read it as well. And it made me go back and listen to that Kelly Thompson interview that you mentioned, and it was great.
Oh, thanks.
Oh, nice.
But I did read another book in my cram sesh for tonight's episode, and it is one that I think I probably brought up before, and I'm probably going to say the same shit about it again. It was She-Hulk, issue 12. I mean, look, I've been on here a lot of times.
Facts.
Rico Rowell, Andreas Gillette, I'm sure I said that wrong. Joe Quinones with colors by D. Cuniff. This is the Marvel does that silly thing where they're like, it's the 175th issue.
Yes, legacy.
Yeah. Don't ever stop.
175th issue. And if I've talked about it before, I apologize. But I super like Rainbow Rowell's characterization in Runaways. She did this book with Faith Erin Hicks called Pumpkinheads that was sort of like a romance, teenage, coming of age type thing that was cute and fun, sort of like a YA book. And she writes novels too, but I'm dumb. I'm gonna be reading books like that. But I do read She-Hulk, and as far as characterization goes, I don't know that I've read, because I've read like the Byrne stuff, and I read the Slott stuff, and I read the Charles Soule stuff. And this, I feel like, is my favorite take on the character of She-Hulk, just Jen Walters and her relationship to her job and other superheroes and that type of thing. Maybe Slott a close second. I really like that Slott run too. But this issue is like half following along the adventure we've been reading with Jen and Jack of Hearts, and she's mixing it up with the Fantastic Four this time around. There's a new villain who looks like they're having a meet cute, like they might have a relationship or an affair of some sort. And this guy's a thief, and they get in fights, and that just sort of moves the story along that we've been following. But there's a great little backup story by Joe Quinones and Rainbow Rowell that is She-Hulk and her friends, and they have a book club, and it's just She-Hulk and Janet Van Dyne and the Daughters of the Dragon and Patsy Walker and Sue Richards, and Volcana shows up, supervillain Volcana, and they're having a book club, and so it's just like all kinds of character stuff, which I think Rainbow Rowell's great at, and they're in like big character stuff where it sort of like moves the story forward too, but zero superheroics or ballyhoo that we like out of a Marvel superhero comic, which I think I probably said in the past is like my one beef with Rainbow Rowell stuff is that like she's so great at characters, but as far as like surprising me with plot stuff or like the adventure of it, I feel like that's something she's still getting up to speed on, and I feel like like at some point she's gonna hit that stride, and I'm there for it because like the part that she's great at is enough to carry me until she gets great at the other part too, I think. Do you have thoughts on that? Are you reading this at all?
Well, one of you's been punching your mic the last 10 minutes. I don't know if which one of you it is, but it sounds like someone's assaulting their mic.
It does.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's Tony. Maybe he's drawing while he's writing, so he's. But either way, yeah, I'm a couple issues behind, but I'm very much enjoying it. Like you said, I think the characterization of She-Hulk and her supporting cast has been terrific. Even things like Jack Parts or Janet Van Dyne, like it just seems like Rowell makes them feel vibrant and interesting. Yeah, I will say that I would, if I've ever read a comic with the artist's name, is it Genolette? How do you say it? Do you know how to say? Is it Genolette, Andre Genolette? I don't know if it's. I assume it's French, so it's probably Andre Genolette. But I don't think I've ever read comics by Andre before, and I love the style for sure. Like it's squarely in the kind of superhero comic art line work that I like. So art looks great. And I will say that I'm skimming issue 12 now. I haven't read it yet, but Quinones did a little character redesign of Volcana, it looks like.
Yeah.
Made her a little Zoftig, a little thicky. So yeah, but no, I think I think it's been a fun series for sure. Like it's and a welcome tonic because I mean She-Hulk isn't like quote unquote one of my characters where I'm going to rep hard for her being done in any particular way, but I had just no time for the raging like bestial Hulk that pervaded Aaron's Avengers run. So it's nice to have her back as witty, lawyer writ large. I think that's a far more interesting. Like what made her interesting from the start was that she was like the Hulk only smart, right? Like that was like the whole conceit, right? Like that she was in control of herself, unlike the Hulk who's not. So yeah, I'm with you on that so far. But I'm like I think I've read up to issue 8 maybe 8 or 9.
Yeah, I think I might have missed issue 11 or something because I was reading this one and I was like, I feel like I'm missing something. So I know it's in a pile around here. I have to dig it up and read it. But
I don't remember the last time I saw Quinones draw something. So
Batman 89 maybe.
Well, I didn't read that, so that would explain
it. Andreas Genolette also did Rainbow's Runaways after Chris Anka took off. So you.
Well, I didn't read that in part because Chris Anka was on it. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean, listen, I've met Chris Anka. Like, he's a very nice dude. Like, I got nothing against him as a human being, but his art style is a little too, pin up like fashion sketchboard for me. It's yeah. Mm-hmm.
I liked the fantasy thing he did with Matt Wilson on colors, and I can't remember who wrote it. Did he write it? It was like that 2-issue, like Gray Forest, or what the fuck was that thing called? I can see what you're saying about some of it. I thought that fantasy one was like him taking a real swing on something.
Mm-hmm.
But whatever. I can't remember what it's called, so it doesn't matter.
All good.
Chris Sonka, everybody.
Sonka.
No, like a cool dude. I mean, yeah, like all love for him as a human.
Yeah. Can we talk about Local Man for a little bit?
Do we have to? Nah, I'm just kidding.
It's always about you.
Of course we can. First of all, let's talk about the fact that that issue 3 went back to print, which I believe makes it 3 for 3 that had to go back to print. Am I correct?
That's right. Yeah, every issue we're keeping it in print. Issue 3 second printing will be on the FOC this next Monday.
So take us behind the curtain on this process, Tony. You who decides what the first print run's going to be?
Well, I mean, the order numbers come in, and then
right. So order numbers are X, and then do you and Tim, as the co-creators and owners, sit down and say, "All right, well, orders are X. Let's do that plus 20%," or does Image say, "Hey, here's orders. We typically will do this plus %," or do they do it without talking to you? Like who makes the call on the first print?
I think they pretty much do it without talking to us. Like they have a pretty good idea of what the reorders usually are. You know, they do several of these books every week, so they have it sort of figured out.
Right.
But that being said, you know, this one keeps selling out, and it's different from when Stray Dogs sold out, because like this book is like it's coming out in a different time. Like Stray Dogs came out at a time when we were all, you know, locked up inside, and there was like a collector boom going on. Everybody had stimulus money, and we weren't nearly in a recession, and there wasn't a war in Ukraine, like all this stuff. And so it's not selling like Stray Dogs numbers, but it does have interest enough that it keeps selling out, and it keeps getting reordered, and it keeps, you know, like it's one of those things where it should start ticking up. That's sort of what we're betting on right now, is that like issue 4 and the third issue second print will FOC this week, and that's where we should start to see if it's working, you know, because it's sort of like people give it a shot, people give it another shot, you know, like, and then the first issue sells great, and then it'll dip off, and then you need to start building back up. Otherwise, it's sort of just like a slow decline into, you know, spending half of your month making like a few $100 or whatever. And that's not where we're at. Like this is definitely a success. These things selling out like this, and people, like the interest people have in it is great. But you know, it could sell better. But that's sort of why it keeps going back to print, is because when they print issues 1, 2, and 3, and the percentage that they overprint, we sell better than that, but we don't sell so great that they're just like, this, we got to keep going. It's not like 8 Billion Genies or Stray Dog, where it's like, you know, 5th printing, but at this point, and probably wouldn't be, because we'll have a trade out at a certain point, you know. But yeah, so like the good news is it's going back to print again, and it's going to continue to be in shops, and like the reviews keep coming in, and you know, like the first issue always has like, you know, 20 some reviews or something, and then as you get going, you know, like 8 people review it, or 7 people or whatever, like if you're looking at your comic book roundup. But we're always, you know, real highly rated on there. And then like, you know, the longer it's out, more people, you know, Scott Snyder read it just out of nowhere and was just like, holy shit, you know, this thing. So, you know, it's interesting. But we're putting together, last time I was on, we talked about this crossover issue that we're working on called Local Man Gold. That'll be like a gold foil one shot that goes in between the first and second arcs. And it's a crossover issue that has like a bunch of Image superheroes in it, including like Fire Breather and Stryker from Cyberforce and Street Angel and Boof from Boof and the Cruise Crew, and Homegirl from Love Everlasting. It's just sort of like
Can't wait, dude. It's gonna be lit.
all these cool like Image characters, just sort of like getting to play with them and smash them all together. And we're also lining up our next arc's worth of covers, and like getting cool like we did on the first arc. Like our A cover is always by me and Tim, and then we get a B cover that's by like an Image Comics legend, legendary to us. If you're somebody,
yeah, like you had Brett Booth on the right.
Brett Booth on 3.
Yeah.
We got Joe Benitez coming up, and just today I got an email from Jim Valentino.
Nice.
We're talking to Wills. So yeah, we're like it's sort of like Image Comics fantasy camp on that front. Like me and Tim are really grinding and trying to make this thing the best possible book that we can make, but also we get to have this fun where it's just like, emailing our heroes and going like, hey, so this is what his costume looks like, and we have these characters, just like super fun stuff like that. Stuff that when we talk about nostalgia and sort of like that whenever you're 14, the stuff that really registers with you. I got an email from Jim Valentino today with a drawing in it, and I was just like, what the fuck is this?
That's awesome.
It's so crazy.
So I have questions. So take a page out of your book when you come on. I have questions.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So you and Tim, when you agreed to do this book, like before you even like solicited the first issue, you both have been around the block a few times. Like, did you say to yourselves like, okay, this is what we needed to sell to go X length, or we'll keep making the book until it hits this level of orders and then we'll wrap it up? Like, did you have specific plans and agreement and numbers in mind, or was it more just like, well, let's see how it goes and hopefully it's a smash? Like, I'm just curious, like how much rigor you guys put into when it would be time to call it a day, to your points, because you don't want to make a couple $100 for 2 weeks of work.
Yeah. We didn't have specific numbers. We basically have like an idea of what it needs to be, and at a certain point, Image will be like, hey, this is just going to cost everybody money, and we're definitely not there. Like, the book does good, but Tim and I both sell. Tim, like, with a proven record, with Hack Slash and Revival, sells in trades extraordinarily well, and I sell extraordinarily well in trades on this one book that I did. So that's the one where we're just like, is it like, am I going to have this again? Like, am I going to continue to be reliable in the bookstore market? Because that's where we're really like, we got to see how that does before we really decide what we're going to do.
Okay.
It could be a thing where, like, regular issues would just end up being like a loss leader for a thing that sells in trades. But like I said, we're not there quite yet.
Okay, and as I said, I had questions plural. So, we have pontificated a lot over the years about the variant covers, and are they good? Are they bad? Are they necessary evil? All this sort of stuff. And everyone's got opinions. But like, you now have had multiple books, this and Stray Dogs, where variants have certainly been prominently featured. Explain to us like the importance to the book's success and the economics. Like, okay, so you're getting Valentina to draw one. Like, does Image say to you like, oh, we can hook you up with Jim, or do they just say like, yeah, reach out to him, good luck, or then like, do you reach out to someone like Jim and say, Jim, we love you, we're doing this Image book, blah blah blah, like, would you be interested? He's like, yeah, sure. Like, it's like often when you're trying to buy something, do you say up front like, this is our budget, would you be interested? Or do you say, hey, we'd love you to draw for us, and then he comes back and says, cool, this is my rate, and then you're like, all right, bet? Or like, do you kind of like hold your breath and think like, can we afford Jim Valentina? Like, I'm just curious, like, because obviously you guys, I think a lot of our listeners know, the Image model basically is, you guys effectively, you're on the hook for the economics, good or bad. So like with the variants, how does that work? Like, and you can speak to Stray Dogs as well, because you've obviously done a ton for that. Like how do you, when it's your own book and it's creator owned, like, how do you decide that calculus? Like how many variants are we going to do? Like, who are we going to get to do them? Like, how much are they going to cost? Should we pay that amount? Like, I've always been fascinated by that. Like it's much different than Marvel or DC where they just have like a formula and then everybody's rates and it's just kind of like slotted in. Like I assume this is negotiated, right? Like if you called up, Matteo Scalera tomorrow and were like, Teo, you want to do a variant? I'm sure he'd be like, sure, I get X dollars for a variant. And you'd either be like, oof, yeah, thanks, but no thanks. Or you'd be like, all right, bet. Like, I'm just curious, like, how much of that is factored in, like, or is it more just like hope and pray and then you're like, we'll make it work?
It's a little of both. I mean, there's a number around which most of these covers cost.
Okay.
And it's it's not too wildly different across the board. And in some cases, it's like favors. Like I think
it's a couple grand, right? Like without giving too, like it's generally a couple grand for a cover, right? Like that's typical.
It's less than that. I mean,
okay.
It possibly is.
Okay.
But like for the Tadnok one that we got, that he probably would have charged us pretty good for that. But he instead was just like, hey, if you want to buy the original art, I'll just you can just have it.
Nice. Okay.
Stuff like that. And then the original art wasn't cheap, but it was like a lot of times it's people we have relationships with. Like Valentino is a buddy of Tim's and he likes Stray Dogs a lot, and like so we had some email correspondence and stuff. So it's just sort of like reaching out, and then they'll say a number, and usually it's within our means. And if it's not going to be, they'll usually say ahead of time, like, it's going to be, I might be too expensive for you. Like nobody will just draw like a $3,000 cover and be like, that'll be $3,000.
So that's why you haven't reached out to Rob yet?
Well, the Rob thing, honestly, it's like, I'm afraid to I'm afraid to be like wrapped up in it. Just because I love his work so much, and like I've seen, him out there, you know what I'm saying. You've talked.
Yeah,
to him.
he's out in them streets. Yeah.
And so I'm just like, the relationship I have with Rob Liefeld, where I love his work and he doesn't know me, is perfect, and I feel like
right.
Like I don't fuck that up for myself. It's like Good Will Hunting. Maybe she's perfect right now. Maybe you don't want to fuck that up.
Dude, what about Larson, dude?
Larson could happen. He's another buddy of Tim's. He's just busy, always making 2 books at the same time or whatever. But we would super be into that. I don't think we've actually pressed him too hard, but we'll get there.
So is it fair to say that like with Image, then most of the variants are because you have relationships? Because like it's not lost on me, right, that like and again it makes sense. Like all the Image books that are done by Felix's crew have variants done by other Felix crew members. And it's not just because like Felix sets it up. It's because they're all friends. They travel together, go to cons together. They collect, like they're all buddies. So like it makes sense, right? And they're also most of them are all absolute badass artists too. But like what I mean? Like so you're saying it's like in generally speaking with like Image creator owned books, like you're in charge of the ship. Like so the variants are going to come from people that you probably know or okay.
Yeah, Image almost never says like we should do this kind of variant with this person. The closest they got to that was when we put out Stray Dogs. They did a blank cover that they didn't ask us about. They were just like, oh, we did one of these, and it was like, oh, sweet, that's free money.
And how do the again, sorry, questions. How do the variants that are tied to specific stores work? Like a store, like I mean, there seems like that's a lot. Like I don't know if you've done that. I assume you have, but like how does that work? Like, does the store reach out to Image and say like, oh, I'll buy 200 copies of Stray Dogs #1, but like I want a variant cover for it? Like, is that then on you to subsidize because they're gonna buy, or do they also have to pay for it, like pay for the art? Like, how does that work?
Well, yeah. So there's a number that you have to order to get to do your own store variant cover. Then you also have to provide artwork.
Okay.
So like the stores, so I've heard some publishers will like provide artwork and say like, hey, if you order 1,000 of this comic or 500 of this comic, you can have this cover and it can be your cover, but it's just a way to sell that many copies.
Got it.
To sort of like kickstart or jumpstart, I guess kickstart means Kickstarters, but to sort of jumpstart the variant cover game on Local Man, me and Tim did up a couple that we were just like, here's some free homage variant covers, tell the people if they want to jump in, they can jump in. And we did it like that. But on Stray Dogs, the retailers showed up and they either brought somebody with us or they contacted me and Trish and said like, hey, we want to hire you to do this cover. And we had a number that was like, all right, here's how much we cost. And then you got to order the for Image at the time it was $500. I don't know if it still is. I think it still is. But they talked about going up to $1,000. Marvel, it's like 3,000, I think, maybe 2,000.
That's interesting. Because how many stores could order 3,000 of any comic?
Mm-hmm.
TCPS and Midtown, right? Like, is that? I mean,
yeah, but the economics of it are you're not selling it.
Oh, because then they sell the Chase variant for. Okay, right. Yeah.
Sell it for $20 a piece, and then you only have to sell like a portion of those to make your money.
Got it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it is it's basically like you're taking a shot on something. Like I know 8 Billion Genies had a bunch of them, and Stray Dogs obviously. Stray Dogs holds the record for having the most. Twig had a ton of them. And that's just shots taking a chance on. Are they going to be able to do enough business to sell enough of those at $20 that after you sell the first 100 of them or whatever, then you're making $20 a comic for the other 400 that you sell.
And do you think it'll ever get old selling a comic you created for like $20 to $50 because it's a variant signing your name on it? Like, will that ever get old to go to cons and do that?
The only way I could think it would get old is me trying to keep track of which ones are actually worth something. So I could see, 10 years from now, me just going out and selling books that are worth $100 for $10 a piece or something, just because I'm just like, I'm not looking this up. So in that way, it could get old, but that's just me knowing what my limitations are as far as paying attention to shit.
And last question, have you stuck to your promise that My Domino was the last fully rendered commission you were ever going to do?
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. All right.
I have a couple pony ones I got to finish up that I took before. You would be furious about this, that I still haven't finished from like 2019.
Dude, there was a post in one of the Facebook collector groups from a guy who was just beside himself because it had been 4 years since he paid for Stegman to do a commission and it wasn't done. And I was like, oh, I can't chime in here. Like, I completely am with the dude spiritually, but Stegman's my boy, so I can't chime in on this one.
We've talked about it on here before. Like, I love drawing and I love making comics. And I even love, doing commissions for people. But the pressure of those, more detailed commissions is like I'm not big enough to charge enough to make it worth it for the fucking anxiety of it. Like if those Felix guys, they go ham because they charge Felix prices.
But I was going to say the big news these days with the commission game is Trad Moore still has most of the list he took years ago undone, and people are like, well, wait a minute, like now those commissions cost a fortune even back then. But a lot of people probably rightly are like, well, wait a minute, dude is literally selling his art for a single issue for $350,000. Like, we're never getting these commissions. And I'm like, you're probably never getting these commissions. Like I hope for the sake of karma that he takes a month and I gotta bang these out. Like, these people gave me thousands of dollars years ago for this. But if I were handicapping it, you're probably never getting these commissions.
I'll tell you what has made me I have a real, when I do conventions now, it's still the older I get, the more it feels like a schlep going out to these things. But I do, I have a sense of peace at the show because I charge $150 or something for a head sketch, or $130, and then I just do a $40 remark. And I can do a nice head sketch and feel nice about it and not be in a fucking frenzy all weekend trying to get everything done for these higher priced full body things that I do. And I can make the same money because I raised my head sketch price to what it's worth to me,
Yep. No, that's beautiful. I mean, yeah, it's at the end of the day, I think that's great.
Listen, I have to move us along because I got a movie starting in an hour.
Yeah, we're ready to wrap it up.
Yeah, I think we're wrapping up soon.
Yeah.
Let's try.
We just got your in your travels to do.
Yep.
Then Vince isn't here, so that won't be another half hour. So.
Facts.
Thank you, Tony, of course. But thank you so much, folks, for listening. As always, our sponsor, cheapgraphicnovels.com. Our Patreon, patreon.com/11o'clock.comics. The May Book of the Month form will be up this weekend. I was tweaking it this afternoon, so give us your suggestions. Again, remember, if you're on the Patreon site, click the link to the form so you can enter the information. Posting your responses as a reply will not work. We need to see... We need to keep the running list going, so please fill out the Google form when it's posted. Let us know what you'd like the three of us to discuss this month. In your travels, keeping with the theme of tonight, with our good friend and patron, Peter Drummond's prompting, he... nudged me along to read Star Trek number 7, published by IDW, written by Collin Kelly and Jackson Lanzing, art by Mike Feehan, colors by Lee Loughridge, not Dave Stewart. And it's weird. I don't know if this was just a creative decision, but the credits page that gives you a recap of what's going on is all lowercase except for the first letter of each sentence. So everybody's name, like Kalis, Cisco, except for the ship, everything is in lowercase, and it's the weirdest thing. I've never seen it, and I checked the other IDW books that came out that week, and it seems to just be this one. I don't know why. It just it struck me as odd. But what I liked about issue 7 is we get a little bit of a breather following the hectic, chaotic events from the first 6 issues, from the first arc, which also gave us the spin-off Star Trek Defiant series, featuring Worf and a crew that he has put together. But issue 7 of Star Trek is basically it hit me right here, as if you can tell where I'm pointing. This issue takes place on Deep Space Nine, and if you watched the series and you saw the finale, you know that Ben Sisko being on this space station can be a little emotional with all the players involved. It was nice catching up with the characters from the show appearing in the comic. It was kind of paced like an episode. There are things that happen on a couple of pages where it was almost like you get to the last panel and it's like the end of a scene on the episode, the way somebody may look off to the camera because something else is going on. It's just, I really liked the pacing of it. Everybody sounded great. There's an appearance by a character that I never expected to see, not just in a comic like this, but on the space station. But because the character is Bajoran, it absolutely makes sense. This was a lot of fun. Sisko reconnected with with Cassidy Yates. He gets to spend time with his daughter, who was born after he basically, in air quotes, died. There's a great little back and forth, not so much a back and forth, but Quark interacts with Dr. Crusher. There's a mystery going on. There's still the big the big enemy with Kalis and what he's attempting to do. But it was a really cool issue, ending with a pretty heavy cliffhanger. It's silly that they kind of put themselves in this situation, but I'm curious to see how they get out of it. So, in your travels, the The first arc is done, so that's probably going to be collected. The 7th issue starts off a new storyline, sort of a direction, but still with that backdrop of the first arc still happening. But yeah, in your travels, check out Star Trek from IDW.
Nice. In your travels, I feel like we've been talking about Kyle Starks a lot lately.
Yes.
With good reason.
Yep.
I mean, it's early in the year, so I don't want to make a Vince level proclamation, but I think Kyle's in the running for my favorite writer of the year so far, just because he's putting out just a bunch of stuff.
And 2 books this week, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And to Tony's point that you can do humor in comics, I mean, Kyle's probably at or near the top of the embodiment of that right now. Like, most of the stuff he makes is funny in some way, sometimes overtly, sometimes more nuanced, but it's generally, a big part of it is humor, and for me it works. I just think he's great. So he is doing a DC book. Peacemaker Tries Hard. And it is a Black Label book, as it should be.
Yeah.
It is written by Kyle, with art by Steve M.F. and Pugh, and colors by Jordie Bellaire. If you saw the solicit and you ordered this, you likely knew what you were getting, which is that this is clearly in direct response to the smash success of the James Gunn-helmed television show, which, of course, is John Cena as Peacemaker. I know that Dap and I are both huge fans of the show. I don't know where Tony stands on it, but it was a great show. I think we're getting the 2nd season very soon. And this is that Peacemaker. It is John Cena in an R-rated universe where he curses and it's hyper-violent, hypersexual. So, some of you with more dainty sensibilities who like your superhero comics a certain way, this isn't for you. But if you liked the TV show, I can't see that you wouldn't love this comic. It's hilarious. It's great. I felt like this was another episode of the TV show. It felt very much in the same vein. You could almost hear John Cena's voice as you were reading the word balloons. It's dirty. It's silly. It's puerile. I mean, there's poop jokes. There's dick jokes. I mean, it is sophomore for sure. And your mileage may vary, but this, for some reason, when Kyle does it, it makes me laugh. And I thought this was very funny. He gets called into a mission. And handles his business, and the plot thickens. There are some DC villains that are pulled in toward the end that I won't spoil, but they are definitely I think fun villains that could fit well into this kind of Black Label R-rated story. So I think smart choices on Kyle's part, and it's great. And Pugh's art's always a treat.
Yep.
This is no exception. So huge fan of the first issue. I think it couldn't have gotten off to a better start. So.
Is Vigilante in it?
No, not in the first issue at least.
Okay.
I don't know if he's in the series or not, but no.
Okay.
No, I mean, Amanda Waller's in it.
Yep.
There are cameos by some of the other Suicide Squad members. Like I said, there's a pair of villains that are very much I won't name because that's kind of a big reveal. But he gets a pet pug that he names Bruce Wayne.
Love it.
The art
is amazing. I love the look of this.
Oh yeah, no, it's great. It's great. Huge fan. Yeah, huge fan of it.
In your travels, we talked about it a little bit, just in passing. But if you've given it a break, or if you just haven't been reading the new series, check out I Hate Fairyland by our buddy Skottie Young, and with his new collaborator Brett Bean and longtime collaborator Jean-Francois Beaulieu.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I think this is some of the best stuff that Skottie's ever written. And Jean-Francois, like, his mastery of this world, like, I'm so glad that even if the artist changed, that the color is stuck around, because it just looks like how this book is supposed to look.
For sure.
But I think, like I said, there was an episode that was about gremlins that I thought was one of the best ever, and then this new one that has, like, at the beginning of the issue, it has a little QR code you can scan, and this band called Jack the Radio wrote a theme for I Hate Fairyland, and so you're reading this silent comic with like a soundtrack, which I'm sure has been done before, but Brett Bean is really just like going nuts here, and like his pacing is great, and his like it really works. It's the sort of thing where, you know, silent comics you could just like flip right through and be done with it in 10 seconds, but there's so much fun little storytelling stuff in here, and just like reading it along with the song. It's a gimmick, but it really worked, you know, and I was just so impressed with it. So yeah,
shout out to George Haig, another friend of the show.
Yeah.
Was that right?
Yep.
Oh yeah, he's our homie. Yeah.
Was that when there was a vinyl that was sent out? And,
Yeah, with the saber-toothed
yep.
swordsman and Cankor.
Kanker. Yep.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I actually met George. We met George many years ago at I think it was our first Heroes Con.
Our first
met
one,
him.
yeah.
Yeah, because he was hanging out with Skottie when Skottie was just discovering the magic of wine. He's become quite the expert since. But no, yeah, George has got an incredible art collection as well. Absolutely incredible.
Oh, nice. Well, I hope he got a page or two out of this. I wonder, do you think, is this digital or is he drawing this on paper? Do we know?
I don't know.
Anyway, great issue, and it sets up. It's issue 5, so it's going to be the first trade. It sets up fun stuff for the next arc, which hopefully there's going to be. I assume there will be a next arc because this.
Yeah. Nice. Well, enjoy the movie, my friend.
Thank you.
Congrats on the continued building momentum of Local Man.
Thank you.
We didn't really get into the plot of issue 3, but I thought it was strong. I'm starting to care for this dude a little more. If I hope that's what you were intending.
That's what I wanted to ask. Have we met the killer?
Oh, Dan, that's a big reveal.
It is. No, I know. I mean, it's been 3 issues, so I don't want you to give anything away, obviously. But I mean, have we? Are there clues there yet to give the reader an idea as to if they wanted to guess, start making guesses, or they're not enough yet?
Not gonna say.
Okay.
But I hope people are making.
I'm glad you didn't. I'm glad you didn't say. But okay.
We got a female sentry in this issue. She reminded me of the Sentry because she's got like the Void as her, you know.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that character. And what I liked about this is like what I liked about my own issue.
I liked that it sold well and it's going back to print.
Speaking of Rob,
I like that it had two scenes with Jack and an X, and sort of like showing that he's like the same shithead in the past that he is in the future.
Yeah.
But hopefully, you know, like hopefully we end up making it, like the first few issues he's just been like a real schlub. But we want him to eventually be like a lovable shithead that, you know, like anybody that's ever felt sort of like out of place or like confused about what they're supposed to be doing. Hopefully people will be able to like, jump on board with them. It's interesting writing a character like that who like the whole point of him is just like he's really fucking up, you know? And so like how much do you make him fuck up before people just go like, we're out. You know what? Fuck this guy.
Well, no, I mean, you've got, like I said, you're doing a good job because at first issue I'm like, oh, okay, so this guy's just a straight up dick. Like, we're supposed to dislike him intensely. And, you know, and then I said, like, by the end of this one, I'm like, man, maybe, I mean, he is a dick, but, like, maybe he's, like, kind of going to be a lovable dick, like, going to have some redemption maybe. And, like, I'm all right. You know, so, yeah, so far you've buffed out some of the rough edges probably by design, so that's cool.
I think we're gonna get you there by the end of the. I'll be excited to talk to you after 5 to see where you're at, and then
nice.
And part of the premise of Local Man Gold is sort of like literally putting him face to face with his past self, and so that like a fun opportunity to do a lot of sort of like what happened to you or like why are you like this. So
before we let you go to your movie, relative to like Gold, like you said, some of the characters are gonna be in there, like including like you know Street Angel, whatever. So like. Do you approach the creator so you reach out to Rugg and be like, we'd like to use her, and then is like a yes good enough, or like their legal contracts, or like how's that work? Like,
in this case, yes is good enough. We're not using anybody. I mean, you know, Fire Breather had a cartoon and stuff, but it's still just by Phil and Andy. So you just, they're in the
So
same
like,
way.
you have like I assume you have like an email, yes. So like at least like that would be like the proof. Like is that because again like
Click the voting button in this Outlook email. The did anybody say no?
Yeah, one person said no.
No shit, bastard.
They had their own thing going on. That
Okay.
It wasn't like, no, I don't like your book. It was like, it was
Tony
like,
who?
I'm mixed up in my own crossover, and I was like, what? Nobody cared. Like,
okay.
Nobody picked this character like 20 years, but yeah.
Fill us in on that because I got to know that.
Yeah, seriously.
Fair enough. All right. Well, thanks as always, brother, for coming on and joining us.
Thank you. I mean, always a pleasure.
Yeah, Dap, great job producing tonight.
Oh, dude, you didn't hear it yet, so, but no, and give little man some scritches for us, bro.
Yeah.
Always great to talk to you.
You talking about my dog, or are you talking about Jason's son who got into college?
I'm talking about the dog.
I assume you're talking about the dog. He doesn't really care about teenagers, even mine.
He knows me so well. Jesus Christ.
Teenager, yeah.
Yeah, he was cute when he was younger, but now fuck it.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
You got some hair down there? Never mind.
Yeah. Dap's says, hey, we should go visit the woods this summer, and they're both like, they got them teenagers though.
They're teenagers now.
I don't know, like they ain't the same. Well, you do have 3 really adorable dogs too, though. So it's like
that is true. I need some Hobbs, yeah.
Maybe when they go to camp, do they go to camp still? Is that a thing?
Dude, first of all, and I say this because I'm the only Gentile of my entire firm.
Oh God!
Like going to camp for the whole summer is generally speaking a Jewish thing. Like every Jewish
Catskills, baby,
went to camp in the summer, like all their childhood. Like Gentiles for some reason, like their parents have like I don't know, an aversion to that. So no, it's not like camp. Like they never did camp. Like they did like day camp, like in a really little bit. Keep in mind, my children are now 20, 18, and 14. Like they're like men. They're not like they like. I'm lucky if they acknowledge my existence as they walk past me. So,
yeah.
Now, do you think Jason's kids are really going to want to go to sleepaway camp with the other plebes?
With other rich kids.
Well, that's not camp.
There are rich kid camps. Though.
There are. I know.
Yeah. That's
90210 shit.
I don't recall the episodes of 90210 I went to sleepaway camp, but okay.
I'm saying that's the kind of drama they would get into.
Got it.
Good Lord.
All right,
Fair enough. All right,
brother. Go to the movies. Love you, man.
Dap, great job. I can't wait for you to have this episode up in the next 3 minutes from now. Good job.
Good luck with that.
I'm going to go get my beauty rest, and that'll do it.
Good night, everybody.
Peace and love, everybody.
Bye-bye.
That's it for that one.